control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are, reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at spacedoutradio.com, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Game on! Game on! Game on!
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
The password is...
Alright.
Okay, seriously, what's with the pointies?
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
Seriously, Dave? Really?
Chloe. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Captain, take your seat on my left. It's time for takeoff.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, start, 2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff.
Just to be there with you, and I still trip over my feet, and my heart still skips a beat. I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. It's good to have you along for the ride wherever we are on this planet we love to call Earth. Yes, we are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North on this Wednesday night, early Thursday morning if you're on the East Coast. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio as we do this thing every night of the week. We rock in and out of every show thanks to our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Yes, Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow me on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, I do want to remind our listeners, we don't take calls on this show. So if you want to tune in, you got to go to one of the chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, and on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, make sure you use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I am watching you tweeters out there right in front of me. If you haven't signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club yet, it's only $5 a month. It's right on our website, and we put your name into monthly prize draws. We give you a special posting section on our website and much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our site, read up on my latest blog. Read up on Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest weird news. And if you've had a sighting or an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Mike Schmidt, our intrepid researcher, is ready to get the scoop on what's happening with you. We want to welcome in everyone in Las Vegas listening in on Renegade Talk Radio. Yes, we are live in the night in Sin City. We also want to welcome in everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Thank you for choosing us for your ears. And of course, if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, it is the largest nonprofit online radio station going. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Tonight we have a special guest coming on. If you're a 90s sitcom fan, you'll know exactly who we are talking about for the next 2 hours. So let's go back to the 90s. And if you remember Grace from Grace Under Fire, well, sure you do, because Brett Butler is literally one of the funniest women on this planet. But the little-known secret about Brett that most of you don't know about is she's also a very talented psychic. So that got me thinking, of course, this would make one heck of a show. Now, we know there's people all around who've seen UFOs and ghosts, but how many of them have come out publicly about it? Especially, even though she doesn't like talking about Hollywood, we think of Shirley MacLaine. She's come out. Blink-182 singer Tom DeLonge on the UFO side, well, he's come out as a believer and he's trying to prove everything. Sometimes it can be a little bit unflattering. Other times, when you're trying to impress the suits, well, maybe they don't like it so much. But Brett is true to who she is. She's psychic, she does readings, and she's all about helping people the best way she can. So let's bring her in right now. Brett Butler, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. What a privilege for us to have you on this show.
Well, how nice to meet you, Dave. Thank you, and hello to all your believer listeners. And it's a weird club out there, but I guess I'm in it now.
Well, it is a weird club, but you know what? There's some really good people in this field, and I'm sure as you've grown in this field and you've started, kind of branching out to doing psychic readings, the majority of the people who are in this field are actually quite normal. They're good, hardworking people.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who are experiencers and or gifted psychically are not ones that are even in touch with it yet, They're demystifying this is so important to me. If there's any way I can help do that, then it's worth it,
Absolutely. And you know what? There are people who are going to work every day, 9 to 5, and they've just had an experience that they absolutely cannot explain. There are people out there who have maybe had psychic intuition. They've maybe had a spiritual enlightenment. They've seen UFOs, maybe taken by aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, whatever it could be, Brett, yet they don't have that outlet. Or maybe, in this very finicky world, they are not as prepared to come out publicly about what has happened to them. So when we take you back, because in the end, you're just a human being much like we all are, when did you start?
An awful lot like.
Well, exactly. But you know how it is. People who are on television or athletes or rock stars, they're always held on some sort of pedestal, and we all look up. And I'm guilty for it as well. I'll never forget the first time I interviewed Wayne Gretzky. I was right beside him. And I literally froze. I had all my questions. I'm a seasoned reporter working in Vancouver in sports. I've interviewed all the big names, and here's Wayne Gretzky. There's,
I still get weak in the knees about standing next to Pete Maravich when I was a kid.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In regards to that, though, when you look back, did you always know that you had psychic intuition, or is this something that developed for you a little bit later on in life when you started investigating yourself?
You don't. When you're a kid, you think everybody rolls that way. You don't think you don't know what everyone else's concepts or perceptions are like. So I had what, since I'm all grown up now, I had what I would definitely call illuminating and probably extraordinary experiences of a divine nature. And that's my take on it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The difference, well, there are a lot of differences. I know Shirley MacLaine. She's a doll. I worked with her. She hired me for a film she did. I love meeting her. The difference is, other than, I'm pretty sure in my past lives I wasn't a queen in any of them, is that I know how can I put it, the people who don't believe, the people who call themselves materialist or diehard scientific or secular humanists, whatever, can be so aggressive about it to people, where they just shoot everything down. And then on the other end, how can I put it? Religious people can also shoot a lot of it down. So I think I was really, when I was 21, I saw, to me, just an amazing UFO that was, it was a, what would you call, what encounter is that when you just see them?
Oh, I believe.
Is it like a first encounter of the first kind?
It's a first or second now.
Well, it was huge, and it was beautiful, and it was about, this lasted 15 seconds, which is a really long time to see something that bends your perceptions. And then I didn't start, quote, seeing dead people until I was nearly 50, a decade ago. So, and it hit all of a sudden, it was just kind of a surprise, and I'm just really grateful to some good friends that I had in my life, and I still do, who kind of helped validate it for me.
And I can understand that, because I had my own awakening about 5 years ago, just out of the blue. And I remember the exact time, the date. It was December 13th, 2011, Brett, at about 7:45 p.m. My parents.
Wow, that's awesome.
My parents were leaving my house. We were doing a Christmas dinner for my daughter, who was going on a Christmas cruise with her maternal grandparents. So we decided we'd get the family together, do a special turkey Christmas dinner with her, let her open her gifts. We had the entire family there, and I'm walking from my living room into my kitchen, and I realized, because my parents announced they were leaving, and I was going to go give my mom a hug and a kiss. And as I walked in that room, I realized my television was silent, and there was a hockey game going on. Go figure, we're Canadian. And everybody in the room was standing still. No noise. And as I made my way to my mother, I got about 1.5 feet away from her, arms open, about to give her a hug, and I realized her beautiful blue eyes were now jet black, looking at me, with her pupils dilated white. And immediately I got sick to my stomach, and I knew I was staring into the eyes of the angel of death. And all of a sudden my mom had this look on her face, this look of shock, like, "Oh, you know me." And
wow.
And she shook her head, and her eyes went back to blue, and I immediately felt just horrifically sick to my stomach, and I wanted to cry. So I ran to my bedroom. And my wife followed up, and she's like, "What's going on?" And I just said, "I just saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes." 3 hours after that incident, I knew nothing about channeling. I knew nothing about intuition. Nothing.
Right.
I had a friend who was psychic, because everyone has a friend who is psychic.
Of course.
And for 38 minutes that night, without even knowing, I channeled the angel of death. And he explained to me that I wasn't supposed to see him, but because I did, he actually needed to explain to me why I saw him. And he explained how I could keep my mom alive. And 5 years later, my mom is healthier than she has been in the last decade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You started at the top. Well, some people would not call it that, but it also makes sense that maybe that happened so the angel of death would not be demonized too.
I hope not. I mean, I'm kind of excited that my mother is still around, but as you said... Of
course you are, sweetie. I didn't mean it that. Yeah, no, you know how I mean that.
Oh, I know exactly how you mean it. It's one of those things, Brett, where sometimes, like you, when you turn 50, me, I was 38 years old. And it's one of those things that sometimes you just get a kick in the ass, and you have to run with it. You don't know why, but it's like your number is called. Did you get that feeling as well?
Well, I was talking to a very elderly man in town with a girlfriend of mine, and I now call it the zone. It's a more familiar feeling. It feels like kind of the only thing I can compare it to is when you're on stage telling jokes and the show's going well. You could really probably take a bullet at that minute and not feel it. It's just, you're just in some moment. And basically I asked him about 10 questions that all got more and more specific about people who had crossed over in this old man's family. And he was 92 years old, by the way, Mr. Henry. And when I finished, I sort of felt like I got thrown back in my shoes. And he looked at me, and this is back in Georgia, a little place called Silver Creek, and he said, "Well, Miss Brett, you've got the shining." And I looked at my friend, like, said in an embarrassed way, "Oh, my God, I see dead people." And my girlfriend said, "I've been waiting for you to realize it." Now, here's the kick. She's like my age, and she'd been in a car accident at the age of 17 that killed 4 people, including her father. She was the only survivor. She's been very psychic since then. She can't see dead people, but she knows who can. Isn't that a weird end of... that's how some psychic stuff... Anyway, we're all here, I think, to... Like, I know hands-on healers who know long-distance healers. And I know, for example, a spirit rescuer. They used to call them exorcists or ghostbusters. We all have... I know everyone has some intuition, but we all have some capability that's greater than the next. But I don't think any of them are bigger than... at one extraordinary experience fully comprehended like yours, for example. The more people that can hear that, the more that, and that's an extraordinary one, the more, I know someone, if you told me 5 years ago that I would know people who are experiencers, and by that I mean, extraterrestrial abductions, these are people who are the tenured professors at good schools, not like drive-through, pretend colleges and stuff. And a lot of these people can't ever come out of the closet, not in this lifetime, So maybe your radio show and things like that are just, their way of just not feeling like, they're the only ones who've had something unhinged happen.
Are you comfortable with it now? Are you fully...
I'll tell you what's interesting about it is, and lest I ever thought that I was special for this, I was aware almost immediately that there are people, and I've said this before, with no moral compass whatsoever who happen to possess profound, specific psychic gifts. It's no respecter of people. They're, psychopath psychics. So... it doesn't, just because it doesn't make me special to have it, doesn't mean that I don't treat it as if it is a sacred skill. It's kind of the way I feel about comedy. Like, I remember, for example, maybe 15 years ago, I told my boyfriend, I'm not going to have a problem with hecklers anymore. And he said, "Oh, honey, there'll always be hecklers." I said, "I didn't say I wouldn't have them. I said I wouldn't have a problem with them." And what was weird is I didn't have one for like 4 years. And then when I did, she was so drunk, it would have been like, slapping a baby. So you just get strong enough in whatever you do. And also, I'm real honest. When I don't hook up, I tell people, like I'll say, if I don't make a connection, I'll tell them and flip their money back right away. This one woman got so upset. I felt like a guy in bed or something. I go, "No, it's not you. It just happens sometimes." I can't always do it.
Embarrassingly, it had that happen.
Exactly. So, I get a lot of people. I don't blurt out to everyone in whom I espy pronounced psychic ability that they have it. I like to see some balance and hopefully some compassion and wit in a person. Most of the people already know it. A lot of people are hesitant about, like, okay, I've discovered X, Y, or Z. Here's an example. Like, before I do a reading, I do my own grounding and intention and protection. And if I'm getting a lot of audio signals, it usually means the person I'm about to call has preponderance of the gift of clairaudience. They'll be, means clear hearing is all it means. Sometimes it sounds like, it used to sound when you dialed, when you were trying to tune a radio, what happened between stations, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So take us back to when you turned 50 and you all of a sudden realized that you had this gift. What was that time like for you?
Well, I'm trying to think. I kind of resisted it a little bit. Well, no, a lot, from just in terms of, I was going through some other stuff, shall we say, and I was working on something else, and I really I knew that I needed a teacher, and, you just don't roll out of the gate like that. What's funny is a very famous and skilled, totally fantastic psychic medium had told me about 25 years ago that I could do what she did. And it was kind of funny. Gary Shandling actually introduced me to her. And when I wrote her a letter, I don't know, 7 years ago or so, thanking her for the heads up and telling her that I'd, been developing it and this, and she wrote back to me very cryptically. She just wrote back, "Be careful, you don't know the rules." And it seemed to me that by saying that to me, that she was being perhaps a bit proprietary, more than protective, of me. So I just decided, wait a minute, the word occult just means hidden, That's all that means. So if there's anything about this that's hidden, I would like to bring it to light. I'm not in some secret club where I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm not a Rosicrucian. I'm not a Freemason or anything like that. I want to share this stuff if I can.
I got an interesting question from Daryl in our audience. She is asking, when you performed, before you knew you had this ability, did you ever get a vibe from the audience, whether they would be responsive or not?
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it psychic. I think, again, most people, there is a thing called the collective unconscious. And I think most entertainers that are, have a measure of success in this, we all dip into it. We all dip into that instant place, that place where we all are. It's a place, some people dip into the collective misery of it, which is, that's obvious in what's going on in the world today. But then some people are able to tap into the bliss of it. And since I'm a comedian, maybe that's what happens. I'll give you an example. Gilbert Gottfried is just one of my favorite stand-up comics. A lot of people just know him from his voices or whatever. But at Catch a Rising Star in New York, this is like 30 years ago, when the club wanted to shut down, they would put Gilbert on, especially on a tourist night. So it felt like so weird to me to have the most brilliant comedian there be the one that chased the people from Ohio out. He would get up and start doing some of the most hysterical, and granted, esoteric stuff, the stuff that would make the comedians laugh. And you had people that, this is when the movie Howard the Duck was out, I think. You had people that wanted that. The word is cognitive dissonance. That's the word I was looking for. So, I don't know that I would call it psychic, to go back to the question, like, boy, this is going to be my crowd. I will give you an example of one time I knew. I was at Catch a Rising Star, and I was backup. And I knew the guy booking the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was in the house. And I knew, and it never happened, I knew that I would get to go on that night and that he would like me and that I would do the show, and that happened. And the other time it happened was the night I got seen by the producers for Grace Under Fire. And I went out and told my manager that night. Her eyes were really big. She goes, "That was great." And I said, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but tomorrow I'm flying to a Caribbean beach and I'm lying in the sun the last time my fat ass will not be recognized." and if I told that story and it didn't happen, it would be delusions of grandeur. But just a few people knew that it did. But see, the only reason I'm telling it is because I know that almost everyone has things like that happen.
I can totally get that. and when you're thrown into the mix, it just seems to happen a lot more frequently, and you start picking up a lot more interest in that intuition. So when you started understanding that there's something with you, that there is something that you needed to investigate, was it seeing that first dead person, or was it that feeling of being psychic that all of a sudden you were starting to get premonitions or maybe a lot of recurring deja vu? What was that point like for you?
Well, what was so sweet about it is that, and first of all, maybe dead people is a misnomer for me. The fact is, and I'm going to use words. I lack the scientific, or probably even just the English vocabulary to describe this stuff correctly. I really believe that we don't expire when these skin schools of ours run out. I believe that our consciousness, and for a long time afterwards, our actual personality remains on a plane that is less dense. And I want to say that if I did not discover, this is just for me specifically, I'm not saying it exists as proof for other people, a man named Friedrich Jürgensen, who was, by anyone's standard, a phenomenal 20th century Renaissance man. He was a polyglot. I think he probably could speak 7 or 8 languages very fluently. He was, I'll give you his quick bio. He was a film producer, an opera star. He was an amateur ornithologist, and he painted portraits so well. He was commissioned by 2 popes to paint them. Born in Russia, but he was a Swede. One night, and this is in the 50s, he was listening to bird calls he's recorded at his home in Sweden, and heard his mother's voice calling him by his childhood nickname, and his mother had been dead for years. That prompted a multi-decades-long exploration of after-death communication using electronic instruments. And this is at a time when things like computers and even sound equipment weren't readily found in most homes. There was such a degree of veracity and scientific accomplishment with his particular homies, I should say, like Konstantin Raudive was, I think he was a Czech therapist who, and anyway, they just had for 30 years, they did some extraordinary experiments about people who died and the different ways they found to contact us. And this is beyond mediums. This is through equipment. And they, things like EVPs. He's the father of EVP, electronic voice phenomena, which now has, as he put it when he disbanded the group right before he died, he said, "We're disbanding not because we failed to contact the dead." He just laughed and said, "They're finding us no matter where we go." They had recordings on the back of tapes that were still in sealed factory cartons. And you can look up the picture online. When Jürgensen died, he knew he was dying. He told his best friends, who were a married couple about 300 or 400 miles away, "Don't go to my funeral. Stay home and watch your computer monitor," because they'd had things like each other's images coming through on different kinds of equipment. And the day of the funeral, the wife of the couple thought to turn on their television set to a non-working station. And the hour that they laid Jürgensen in the ground, his face appeared on their screen, and they took a Polaroid of it. Now, there's, of course, the reaction a lot of people's going to have is, well, that's just a load. That's ridiculous. It's wishful thinking at best. It's an outright lie at worst. I think Jürgensen and his gang had better things to do than that. And I believe that there's a kind of a committee, if you will, on the other side that works very hard to make sure that contact can get made. My complaint, and I understand it, is that it seems to me most of the interest in the paranormal focuses on the scary or the really mean. Things like demons and, to scare people. And there are scary things that happen, by the way, so I certainly understand why people pay attention to it. Maybe angels are boring. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Totally. It leads to my next question. As you now get into this, what is your opinion of the paranormal field?
Well, it's depressing, most of it.
Yes,
I understand. And plus, I'm like an old broad now. I just turned 59 a few days ago, and believe me, I love it. It's hard to even explain how much fun it is to get older, because we're not in a world where it really builds it up, but the alternative is dim and D. But anyway, I understand the black-eyed kids and the things that go bump in the night and all that stuff. But what it's also doing is generating a lot of people who are interacting with the paranormal or the supernatural in really juvenile ways, and leaving doors open for, and it's very worse, yes, the demonic, but for pedestrian stuff. None of it's really playing the good music, so to speak. And I know I'm making a sweeping generalization there. And that's a little bit of the fault of the other end of it, the angels and the bright light people and stuff like that. When people think angels, you generally think of those little chubby things on Valentine's cards. And then when you think demons, there's all kinds of demons that come to mind. So maybe it's incumbent on those of us who like looking at the light to come up with some more interesting characters,
Do you try and stay away from the paranormal field because of the state you see it in? Or is it something that you are slowly trying to figure out who you can trust and whom you can't? That's one of the issues that I
don't stay away from it. It's not my life. I mean, I don't feel excluded from it. I don't feel it's also a very competitive one, by the way. It's the same reason I'm not on Dancing with the Stars. Like, I think that's great if people want to do it. It's wonderful. That's not what I do. That's not the thing I'm best at. So why in the hell would I go do it in front of people, That's how I feel about the paranormal stuff. I happen to be a psychic medium. I know ones that, I got started so late. I mean, I know ones that have impeccable credentials, and most importantly as human beings, and then as psychics. I'm not knocking what anyone does. I just, asking me about the paranormal world isn't fair to the paranormal world, because I really don't know that much about it, except, what I read and hear on other shows and stuff like that. And there's some people that are bona fide experts in that stuff. That's why I don't blow stuff off. If you told me a few years ago that I would actually believe that there's probably a Bigfoot, I would be worried about myself. But I actually think that there probably is more than one.
I've seen two together.
I'm glad to hear that. I don't want to think they're dying out or lonely.
Well, I'm right in the middle of Cascadia here on the West Coast, and, besides marijuana and, some good hippie music, we do like our Bigfoot around here.
I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
They were trying to stop the broadcast of that show called Killing Bigfoot. It was just so awful to even, it's like Bill Hicks used to do the joke about the UFOs down in Fylth, Alabama, when they saw, this ran for several years, there were some extremely well-developed crafts, and I think even third kind encounters, and what they did was everyone showed up with shotguns, and I'm paraphrasing Bill's joke, like, all of a sudden you have an advanced civilization that could show us the end of, world discord, and the first thing you do is show up with double-barrel shotguns.
So when you give an overview and you recognize that there are people out there who know what they're doing way more than you, way more than me in the paranormal field, let's switch to television. As someone who has had a television background over the last couple of decades, what do you think about paranormal TV, whether it's ghost hunting shows?
I have not had a television set in the same amount of time that I've been a psychic. I don't even know what's on. It's something. I just decided that I had watched enough, and I do see if I could just watch Turner Classic Movies, I'm that boring. I will see something online. I can, as you know, you can watch documentaries. If you just Google free online documentaries, there are 3 or 4 websites with thousands of them, and that's basically what I like watching is documentaries. Of course, what passes for documentary is hysterical. Like, especially in the fields that we're talking about. I'll give you an example. There's a guy, God, I'm almost afraid to step on the guy's toes. Billy Meyer, you know, the Swiss guy that's seen the spaceships for. Well, his American spokesperson is so touchy and just freaks out about stuff. You know, the fact, like, if you say, I don't believe those pictures, I've seen them on Dean Martin's Gold Diggers or whatever, he just has fits. Let me give you a good example of something I think is wonderful. I discovered this place online and by word of mouth over 15 years ago. It's called Gilliland's Ranch. It's in Washington State at the foot of Mount Hood. It's the number 1 UFO drive-through spot on Earth, right? It's so interesting there, and I know people who've gone up there and they said there's everything from men in black to elderly British tourists to, you know, macrame chicks and stuff like that. And the fact is, I remember seeing the Fox News report. They went there to mock them and came away honestly not knowing. They confessed to the mystery of it. They said something is happening there. Because sure enough, at 10 o'clock every night, just call it visual anomalies of light happen. The same thing happens near where I live, over near the Channel Islands. I'm almost at the water in Los Angeles County, near Ventura County. And this is where the unidentified submerged objects are, I think, as much as any place on Earth. And you really don't know what to think. I'm a believer, and something happened. I recorded a few things last week. I was cutting together a video for something and not expecting the stuff to show up. And I have a friend that can't believe I haven't put one of them online. He's like, this would go viral. And I go, I don't care. I don't know what it is. It's this really weird thing floating through the room. And it's not CGI. I don't know how to do that stuff. And when I ran this by a friend of mine, and I said, who's a mystic with more credentials than I'll ever have, I said, what is this? And try not to scare me. And he said, that would be called a signature orb that's coalescing into an apparition. And you ever feel like you stayed at school one day too long?
Every day on this show.
Me.
Every day on this show.
That was me.
Oh, goodness.
Well, the only good thing about it is that whatever it is seems to like when I'm playing with my animals, playing with the dog. So, you know, how bad could it be? So as far as what goes on television, if they call it a reality show, you and I both know most of the shows, they aren't real. There's some people that are really good at it. I know what reality producers have to do to get it on the air. They have to throw stuff in that's fake. But I know this, whatever they have on any kind of this is without me even seeing it, any ghost or paranormal show, whatever they have on is not going to be as weird as what really happens.
I can tell you that would be a 100% accurate reading without you even being psychic. You know?
Right, exactly.
That's just the way it is. Hey, I got a question from you, or from our audience here, and this one comes from Amanda. She has a bunch of questions. We like to use the word plethora around here, so anytime you can use the word plethora, our audience actually...
Exactly. It's better than paucity.
It is, but paucity is
the
good.
Opposite of paucity.
Well, see, apparently I use the word plethora a lot, so people in our audience have actually made it a drinking game now. So if you use it, they're definitely going to all of a sudden hit the chat rooms and say, drink, or time for a shot, or one of our resident, marijuana aficionados, he'll take a hoot. But that's about it. Anyways, okay. Amanda is asking, what are your thoughts on telepathic versus empath?
I think, my opinion, I could be wrong. A telepathic is probably more specific. Empathic involves a sensation that's pre-verbal. I think babies can be empathic, and telepathy generally means the transference of a formed thought. My opinion about telepathy is that I think we used to be a telepathic society in general, and that the very thing that we all love and are dependent on, which is advanced communication through technology, has been the very thing that has diluted that collective ability in us.
And
I think that we're moving back towards it. Or I'll say what my niece is 17 now, and 10 years ago she said, just in this very calm voice, she said, I think people need to learn Morse code again. And I looked at her, because most 7-year-olds 50 years ago barely knew what it was. And I said, why is that? And she said, something's going to happen where we just might not have access to, like phones and things like that, and people need to learn Morse code. And I thought, is this kid seeing something I don't see? I didn't push her on it.
Follow-up question from Amanda for you. She is asking, when you started seeing, or even up to today, have you ever had family contact you, or is it just people that you haven't known?
Oh, no, family was one of my first contacts, the first month or so. Yeah, that's what it just feels so awesome about it. Yeah, I've had both. When actually I had family contact before I realized that I was psychic. I have one of my sisters, actually 2 of them are really, really psychic, and we were together after the birth of her child, and both of us smelled our grandfather's pipe tobacco. It was a very specific kind of a fragrance, and we smelled it at the same time. And that's always kind of, it's cool when more than one person is there to have the same experience. And then there was another time when I had some wonderful great aunts, and this was one who was so Southern from Tallahassee that she said my one-syllable name was 3, beret it, like that. She had the most beautiful cooing accent, and I heard her say my name, and it was definite, clear, and it's with the real ear. It's not some my inner voice or anything like that. It was a real. It registered on the Richter scale with me. But today I did a reading, and it felt, I love when this happens. The client told me in the middle of it, I did not understand any of the message, and she just said, she was laughing and crying at the same time, and she said, I want you to know this makes sense to me. And I said, good, because I'm just giving it to you like I'm getting it. I didn't understand, but that's fine to me. If I don't understand the message, but the client does, that means it's coming through.
Question from Jim here in the SOR Space Travelers Club, and I think this is an interesting one. Since you got into this, have you learned of other actors or comedians that are psychic that you know about?
Yes. Yeah.
Do they keep it private too?
That's why I'm not saying their names. Yeah, they do. And I actually am really glad. They've been very kind to get in touch with me about it. And they're especially people that have had experiences with unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial biological entities. And I'm saying it, I did the whole big phrase just so there won't be any confusion about what I mean by ETs,
Yes, I could fully agree. Why is it, and I don't want to get into the whole Hollywood thing because it really isn't about what we are talking about tonight, but why is it that there are so many people in Hollywood afraid to speak out about what they believe? Is it that much of a career killer?
I have no idea, and I'm gonna go with this. I think I don't have a fear of speaking out. I just think it's tacky. I think there's a lot of people who happen to be well known for the job that they do, and they've gotten over themselves at every level. Like if I go to someone's party and they have their Oscars on the mantle, I kind of want to go, dude, I know how you got the house, and I'm not talking about fake humility either, that kind of thing. I just think my favorite people in any line of work are people that meet other humans based on the human interaction thing rather than I don't want to be the sum of my labels. Like Brett, I'm an infamous comedian, sitcom star, she sees dead people, recovered alcohol, whatever. The list can be really long. On the other hand, when I did say it out loud, and then you run into not just people that don't believe you, but idiots who do believe, that are really just over the deep end and stuff, people that could probably use some grounding. There are extremes on both ends of things. If it makes one person not feel so by themselves or afraid of their experience, that's been really helpful. I guess in the same way, and I'm not saying, it's the same thing as being like a drunk or something, but, one of the most helpful ways to recover from an addiction is to be around other people who have gotten over it. It can be done. And it's also completely possible to have a normal life once you've experienced stuff that could be considered beyond the normal range of experience. And some of the stuff that happens, I know people that have had, frankly, terrifying experiences that they would never, ever have chosen for themselves in their entire lives or any number of lives. And this particularly has to do with ETs. But in the long run, because of the support they've gotten from the community, they consider the experiences to be transformative. And maybe they wouldn't have passed it up, if that makes sense.
Totally. Would you go into, let's say someone calls you up for a television show or anything. Have you ever been asked about it?
Yeah.
Would you mind if I ask how you respond to that?
Well, it depends on what they say, really. I'm trying to, I don't want to be boring and repeat a conversation because it's boring. It's nothing, it's no different than anyone else asking about it to me. Just, if that makes sense.
Do you ever
Usually they talk about it after I get the job.
Right. Do you ever get that stupid question? Well, I guess you would have known I was calling.
No,
Oh,
I don't. I can't remember. I can't remember if I have. There's a thing when I do a reading, I tell people at the beginning, this is how it works for me. Other psychics are different, but the way it works for me is I generally need to know if someone's right or left-handed. It's just the way this thing works down for me. And, so my joke is, I guess if I were that damn psychic, I wouldn't have to ask you. What's funny is usually right as I'm about to tell people that I need to know, I know when they're ambidextrous. I know when they're going to tell me that they are. It just works for, this just works for different people. A lot of people, I think, maybe in other businesses they're this way, but I just go in with my, performer hat on, and I think some people think that their concept, how they conceptualize the psychic is someone who is invasive, who's trying to read them or trying to, and I know when people are shutting down. I can hear, I can almost hear the doors slam. If somebody says, "Oh, did you know Brett's psychic?" And you can hear thump, 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 like somebody's driving their car through a bad neighborhood and you hear the doors lock. And I just want to smile because I know psychics who are that way. I'll give you a good example. I had to call. It's like a few hours in between readings, and just as I was going to call this woman, I was getting annoyed before I even talked to her. And now, she's already paid money for the readings. So when she answered the phone, I said something like, "Hi, is this so-and-so?" "Yeah." And I go, "What in the hell are you doing with this psychic thing?" She says, "I frightened my friends." And I said, "You know what? You both need new friends then." I said, "You can't go around with this stuff." She goes, "I don't tell them what I see. I just tell them I'm concerned." And I said, "Listen, Missy, you're like a 2-year-old that finds her dad's handgun in a drawer. You can't, there's no law saying you have to be responsible with this, but again, I call it a gift because I didn't ask for it and I was happy with it. But there are, again, just to prove that it's no respecter of persons, there are people who find out or discover one way or another that they have certain abilities, and they use them to advance themselves, to have power plays with other people, to frighten people. It's something that all of us might have done with these gifts if we were at a younger, more immature outlook. So in that sense, I find it very dismaying. And it's also something that when people get famous for the gift itself, there's a whole lot at stake, and they feel like they have to be on all the time, they have to be right all the time, and no psychic in the world is going to make really good, thorough, meaningful connections every time. But the more visible they are, the harder it is for them to go, you know what, I'm pulling up a blank here.
I totally understand exactly where you're going with that, because a lot of people just don't understand how it works. You know, I know for me...
Well, I'm not sure how it works, and I know I've strayed from every damn question you've asked me, but, you know, one thought leads into another. I'm not sure. The day I say I'm sure how it works is the day I really need to stop doing any of it. I know people that are so humble and self-possessed that I try to encourage them. I go, you're going to try and find a really reasonable way to incorporate this into your life. If you wait till it makes sense, you may never fully interact with it. Things as simple as meditation and prayer is a really powerful thing, particularly when we do it on behalf of other people. Like, you know, like when we lose the self, pushing up good thoughts or hopes for another person or situation or something. It's one thing, as a friend of mine put it, about all religions have a beautiful mystical aspect to them, but specifically, I know all religions do, but the way Catholics in an organized way pray for the dead, it's almost like one day maybe science will be able to prove it. It's so good for the dead when we pray for them, but it's good for the person who does the praying too, you know. I'm not talking about a religious way of doing it. I just mean things from the heart. It really seems to have an effect on the other side. Can I prove it? No. There's nothing I can prove.
Since you've come into grips with your abilities, have you found that you have become closer and more spiritual and better with yourself, and maybe closer to whether you believe in God or a higher conscious or creator, whatever you want? Have you felt yourself spiritually grow?
Yeah, definitely. It's, yes. I put it this way. I really, really believed when I didn't believe, I had, all kids have chats with God, you know, before we're told it was impossible or that we're doing it wrong. I believe all children come into this world with an undefiled relationship with the Creator. And because of necessity, I suppose, we have to learn things like how not to step off the curb and who stole my blue crayon and things like that. And, you know, that next lie we're going to tell Mom about who got into what, something like that. It's, you know, this basically, I guess if I were to even try to give a science spin on it, it's the right brain works really hard never to let the left brain take the wheel for any length of time. So, and I got born left brain, which is just totally intuitive and empathic and almost like an emotional hemophiliac, if you will. I lack any capacity for not taking things personally or reason. Now, I know other people who were born with almost an alien concept of, and they're called psychopaths and sociopaths, an alien concept of true affection or empathy or agape love, you know, that love that is just totally away from oneself, that has to do with caring about another person. Those are sacred moments, and those are the moments that build my more than the word belief, my need to have a relationship with something bigger than me. Or to put it very bluntly, to hear the holy sound of my head yanking out of my you-know-what. That's basically it. So that's always a compromise. There's a website called the Boundary Institute. They have been measuring individual psychic abilities for decades online, and it's a pretty unimpeachable method of operation that they have. You can't lie on this thing, and it's mostly a sequence of card things. I'll give you an example. The one thing about it, in the 3 weeks prior to 9/11, collective psychic ability across the globe dropped off precipitously, like on a graph. You could see it just go down to a Grand Canyon. Then 9/11 hit, and it went up again, almost like a mirror image of it. Do I know why? No. I just have a hunch that was so horrible, and it was a snag on the cosmic path of who we are, which is good. That means that was upsetting, and that it kind of put the brakes on things at a level that's pre-conscious. But anyway, once I was doing on my PC with a big monitor, I was showing a friend of mine these tests, and all of a sudden I saw every card before it flipped. I was in the zone. I was getting everyone right. And they generate an email after you get a certain number of them correct. It's like, this is an automatic email sent through the Boundary Institute indicating blah, blah, blah. So as you know on your monitor, you can read the part of the email that comes up on the screen. While I'm doing the test, my friend Brian goes, "Oh my God, you're breaking the machine," and at that minute I started to go, I am so psychic. And guess what happened? My guesses fell below statistical chance.
Wow. And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on. We're going to hop out for our first break of the night. Brett Butler, comedian and psychic, is our guest on Spaced Out Radio. She'll be back for hour number 2 right after this.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend, I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you all with us. Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to be talking to Bruce A. Smith. Yes, it's D.B. Cooper talk time again. And there's been some updates over the last recent weeks over this, so we're going to talk to Bruce about those updates. I'm going to be joined by the preacher, Eric Markham, as well as my co-host tomorrow night right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We are live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. Good to have you with us in Sin City. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He's taking it easy on me tonight after last night. He kicked my ass with it. Hypotenuse is your password. Hypotenuse. Make sure you use it wisely if you're an SOR Space Traveler Club member. Hey, if you want to follow us on social media during the show, you can go to hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. I am at Spaced Out Radio if you want to give us a follow. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, for our archives. And, of course, you can tune us in on TuneIn, download this show and others on iTunes, and our website is spacedoutradio.com, where you have a plethora of features for you, and we're going to be adding more as the time comes. And you can also join the SOR Space Travelers Club, $5 a month. That's all. That's it. Tonight we have a very special guest, comedian Brett Butler. She is also an extremely talented psychic. Brett, welcome back.
Hi.
Hello.
Hypotenuse, eh? Hypotenuse.
Hey, you went Canadian there for a second, throwing an A in there. That was good. That's right. That's right.
If I say a boat, I think I say it. Yes. I have to take the dogs out. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, apparently, during my birthday show this year, my booking coordinator, Corey, came over and sat with me live during the show. And she brought a bottle of Jägermeister, and you have to understand, I don't drink. Well, apparently
That's always fun when a non-drinker has some Jägermeister.
Exactly. Well, you know, the more she fed me, the more Canadian my accent was coming, the accent I have was coming out to the audience. So I've had to ban birthday parties on the air now because of Corey.
Go Corey.
Exactly. So we're going to blame her for that. I do have a question. We'll start off with our audience questions right now, if you don't mind. This one comes from Joe. And Joe has really nice hair, and we always like to make mention of Joe's hair on this show. And he is asking...
Joe, girl or boy hair?
Boy hair, like rock star hair.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hi, Joe.
Yeah. Joe is asking, Brett, when you talk with the dead, have you ever made them laugh?
We make I know this sounds crazy. What the hell? Yes, we make each other laugh. I think okay, here's my take on it. Everybody who's on the other side is not going to be a fan of me just like they aren't in real life, okay? There's certain levels that psychics find that then the dead people find them too. I want to say I think it's a two-way street. I've had some really funny dead people. I've had, and I mean real, how can I put it, all kinds of funny, from pratfall stuff to more, blatant funny to plays on words, things like that, which I really, really appreciate. Yeah, that's a good question. Yes.
So what's that like?
And things are funny over there, and they do have a sense of humor. It's just, again, dead is such a misnomer for it.
Mm-hmm. What's that like? Like, are you throwing jokes at them, or are you just kind of, lightening the mood as you're trying to gain that communication?
Well, it's sort of like, in a way, it's like doing stand-up. Most of my best stuff I write on my feet when you're doing stand-up. You can set the core of a joke or something. And then there's a thing where you're trying in real time to talk to a person. First there's the identifying part of it. I can tell them basically, here's where they are in your family graph, and then I try to give visual or, whatever I'm getting on them, if it's letters or a name or something with a look. Like tonight, there was such a specific visual that had to do with details in an outfit this woman in spirit was wearing. Since I usually don't get that kind of detail, I was guessing that for this client it would have meant something, so it did. And it's sort of like if I describe to you, or if I stop and think what I'm doing to ride a bicycle, I will tip the bicycle over. I can't go, and now I'm pushing with my right foot on the pedal and doing that. You just have to get on the damn bike and ride it. And that's kind of what talking, I tell people when I start, it's real important that you just answer yes or no to start with. That's why even if someone lived next door to me, I would prefer to do a phone reading, because I can't tell from facial expressions. I can't get any help. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
I don't want help, and I tell them, because they're always nice, and I would rather read somebody who's essentially skeptical with a little bit of an open mind than I would what I call true believers that wear goddess dresses and have unicorns, in their heads, only because they're going to say yes and not make me work for it. I don't like halfway connections, so it's real important. The more specific the other side can be, the better chance I have of making sure I'm giving this person somebody that they know is on the other side. Sometimes the client, has in mind one certain soul that's crossed over, and they aren't open for another one, and you never know who's going to come through. Sometimes people don't wait very long at all before they try and get in touch with someone if they're bereaved. I want to mention Well, there's a man named Alan Botkin, Botkin. He's a PhD. I think he's in Chicago. He came up with something several years ago. Pardon me. It's called induced after-death communication therapy. I know of therapists who themselves are atheists or even agnostic who practice this particular kind of modality that has to do with after-death communication, and because of its effectiveness. And they will stand there and go, I don't believe they're really talking to the dead. I don't believe that they've made contact. But the client believes it, and that's what's important. And I think it was taken from Raymond Moody, you know, the guy who wrote Life After Life, you know, over 40 years ago, the seminal book about after-death communication or near-death experiences, that Bodkin took his technique of a psychomanium, which is you can do at home. I don't recommend it. I recommend having someone with you and grounding and doing these homemade psychomaniums can have scary things happen. You have to be prepared. So somewhere in all that, I just love when jokes find a way to get to the surface. And you have to be careful, too. Just because the dead person feels like cracking a joke doesn't mean your client wants to hear it, you know. They'll think I'm being a smartass or something.
Not you. No, not you.
Never.
I have an interesting follow-up question to this one. And I'm wondering, because of your ties in the world of comedians and comedy, have you ever communicated with any deceased comedians who maybe just need a laugh from the other side?
If I tell you that, and this sounds so funny, I'm not correcting, I just don't drop names in this life or the next. I had this happened, about, I'm trying to remember, 2011. It's a long story that would only mean something to me and the dead celebrity, but I really don't want to say who it is because he has living family members, and I happen to love this guy. I met him once before. He was a beloved American celebrity, he's an actor. Anyway, this was happening in real time at home, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there alone in my house, and I went, oh my God, this is you. I'm contacting you, and you're this famous guy that I really loved, you know. And he had a very strong accent and said, yeah, it's me, and hello, and it had to, here's the weird part. I didn't know that I was about to leave for his hometown. I had a gig that I didn't want to go on. I told people I do a benefit in this place, and I just went, I don't want to go. And I think he helped me make the decision to go. So it wasn't like, you know, he showed up or, you know, I wasn't sitting there on the edge of my bed trying to conjure up somebody. It just happened in that way that spirit does.
Did it make you feel like this is kind of cool? You know, here I'm a comedian. This comedian friend really who I met.
It was pretty neat, yeah. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I have had a comedian. Come through, and this is. If I sound hesitant, you know, I've got a lot of friends. I thank God in the business that are, and I don't think all of them, how can I put it, they're being very nice to me. A lot of these people don't believe this stuff anymore further than they can throw me. They respect me and love me, and for all I know, they feel sorry for me, saying, you know, you heard about Brett, right? She thinks she sees dead people, whatever. That's okay, too. They still love me. But I'm not going to talk about a mutual friend of ours that isn't here to defend himself. You know, like I don't want to say who I've been talking to. I'm trying to be respectful of everyone. So I'm not being coy. Yes, I'm answering you, but I'd rather not say who. Am I the most boring, celebrity ever?
No, I mean, okay. The one thing about our audience is they do respect the fact that when you got to keep quiet on something, you have to keep quiet on something. And when he gets into Purple Nate, into personal names and everything along those lines. I mean, there's a respect factor and a trust factor that goes along with that. So
it's just there's so many people that don't seem to know the difference between. I'll give you an example, and I'll say it out loud because he was doing it. I was in a club in L.A. I was going to go on, and Tom Arnold was on stage, and Tom was talking. He was being really funny, but he was describing a ski weekend with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was talking about really personal things about Arnold Schwarzenegger's family and his life. And I remember thinking, Tom, that's your friend. At what point do you shut up about who you're... And it was funny. I can't lie. It was a funny bit. So when I took the stage, I just paused and looked at the crowd, and I said, well, the most famous person I know is Tom Arnold. And that was the sound of a name undropping, I guess. But with all the people who will drop names, who are dead and not, I hope at some level that for all I've done wrong, the places where I have a little honor will not be forgotten. So, so thank you, Dave, and to your fans who get this. Yeah.
I'll ask you a simple yes or no question because my curiosity is peaking right now. But when you go into the legends like Charlie Chaplin or people along those lines that were extremely funny, even going to the Looney Tunes characters like who created cartoons. I mean, that was funny stuff back then. Have you ever just decided, like maybe on your own personal level or in a seance or with friends that maybe you just wanted to see what they're up to on the other side?
I have never, first of all, I don't do seances. I would, given if a certain group of people, a spirit circle, and 100 years ago they had it was the golden time of mediumship. You could have a trustworthy group. It would be so hard to have what they call a closed circle now of trustworthy people. If you took out things like, ambition, and it would be so hard to get people who would be, maintain any kind of confidentiality. It would, and also who respects the process, because it really is. You're going into a place where you don't know everyone, and I really believe in being careful. So I've never been curious about. I will say, I've got to say this because it's just a hunch, and it didn't have to do with me, and it wasn't because I'm special. I think I had a drive-by with Abraham Lincoln. It had to do with, it's a long story, it would be really boring, but I was doing something that my client actually was connected to Abraham Lincoln. And about as directly as you can be and be alive in this year, put it that way. It was a very interesting situation. And I remember, my client was saying something, and I'm kind of looking around. Again, talk about multitasking. You really are. You're over on the other side. You're trying to pay attention to, the person who just paid you, or more important than that, the person who has his door open and their heart in their hands, trying to make contact, with someone they're bereaved. And all of a sudden I remember kind of like, my third eye looking and going, you look just like, oh crap, that's you, isn't it? And getting, realizing that just for that moment in time, I think Abraham Lincoln was right there. Again, it wasn't for me, but I was happy to pass that along.
In your personal life, you said in the first hour that you are used to the hecklers, and as a comedian, you have to get used to people in the audience being able to say what they will. Some are drunk and probably a little bit too much. Others are just, there to try and make their own social scene happen. Do you think that...
Yeah, they think it's like part of it fun or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where that would piss you off.
Most people aren't malevolent about it at all. They're just trying to help.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But did that prepare you, do you feel, for the skeptics who will come over and say, well, you know what, Brett's saying she's this psychic lady now, and, where does that come from, and who does she think she is, all that. Because we all go through it in this field. Whether you've had a UFO sighting, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's ghosts, there's always the people out there who are like, prove it to me, prove it.
Right. Well, the other thing is, look, fortunately, I really don't have to share company with them. It's not because I think I'm better than them, but it's weird, again, when you hear those doors slamming, people show you more about who they really are when they respond so defiantly, defensively, so negatively. I see that they're ill-equipped for any civilized discussion or fair or kind one, and it's based on the simple fact that most of the people who would be belligerent or mean, I would be a fool to take it personally because they have had no example in their lives of, I'm talking fundamental humanity. Am I saying that someone is an ogre just because they don't believe me? Absolutely not. Like I said, I've got some of my dearest friends are absolutely adamant that none of what I allege to be true or believable about, relationships that I have or other people have with allegedly dead people or whatever, that all this just can't be true. But they are, I guess, respectful of me in the same way that I have friends who are just devoutly religious in areas that they believe things that I don't believe. For example, I have some friends who think that unless you believe a certain thing in religion, that you will burn in hell, period. And I don't have that same sadistic God, put it that way. So the person who doesn't believe has a sadistic God too, in a way, that they're not willing to honor any other point of view. And my lesson in all of this is to go, that has to be okay with me. I can't base my own level of self-love or acceptance on if X, Y, or Z thinks I'm full of it or not. Because ultimately that'll sort of cut into how much joy I can feel. And also it narrows my capacity for wonder, which I'm adamant that not happen.
Let's get to a question from Everett in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, Brett, do you think...
Great name.
Yes. Do you think that going in with your performer hat on draws criticism that other psychics wouldn't get?
I don't... I mean, I'm not saying this about you or the question. I can't know or care about that answer. I'm hardly calling myself a Renaissance woman because I do comedy. I've written a book. I do this. I don't know. I mean, any more than Dancing with the Stars does. If somebody complained about it, I can't tell you how little that would matter to me. In other words, if they bitched about that, they're the kinds that would complain about Cindy Brady, That's how minuscule on the life concern level. If anybody talks about that's why I get so, even when I agree with them, Madonna, Rosie, whatever, just the fact that people think they're important enough to threaten to move to Canada based on some dismal political outcome, I think we all need to just get the hell over ourselves, and I'm in that club. And and part of getting over oneself is just really not caring about random belligerence from strangers.
Seth has a
and
question.
By the way, and in all fairness, I have to say, I am totally the same way about people that think I hung the moon. They don't know me. I am not more wonderful or funny or anything than anybody. So I definitely have a pretty even viewpoint. It's not that I'm just willing to sell them down the river, if they don't like me. I have an opinion of myself based on me, and who I am in my heart that God sees. That's all.
Seth has a question for you, and he is asking, do you feel that you've had to prove yourself in this field, and have you ever made anyone eat their words with one of your readings?
Well, I've had people tell me that they believe me now. I'll give you an example. I had a client on the phone, and I'll use this. I'll say this. So we're talking, and I go, "Was your father's name Mortimer?" And they called him Mort. And the guy said, "You could just be reading my mind." And I said, "You know what? You got me there." But I kind of smiled because he believed in telepathy, but not after-death communication. But I had to think about it. And I said, we're at an impasse because theoretically there's no thing that I could tell you that would not fall under that umbrella. So do you want to continue the reading? He said, "No, my sister bought it for me and she thinks you're good, blah, blah, blah." So I finished the reading, it's like felt like a hooker with a guy that wasn't really into it. But anyway, so a few days after the reading, I get this email. He is so ecstatic. Apparently he took notes, and one thing I said, another one of their sisters validated, and he swore he'd never heard it before, and I wrote back respectfully, "I think you could have possessed that information in your subconscious." And I gleaned it telepathically. And his response was, "Do you want me to believe in you or not?" And Dave, I honestly thought about this, and I was elated to write back, "I do not require converts. If, however, our 45-minute discussion has made a door open in your head, if you can keep the door of willingness open, because there are hack psychics just like there are hack comedians, I don't want anybody's best or worst day as a psychic or as a comic to affect, someone's open-mindedness or not. But I did think that was a real telling conversation for me. And I do like when, if I get, and there are many more women that call psychics than men, and when I get a male client, I get excited only because men tend to be more pragmatic about mysticism and not quite as open to it as women. And I think, I'm making sex generalizations, and you know what? I'm an old broad and I'm allowed to. But when when anybody opens their mind to something, the possibilities that these things could happen, it just is really helpful. It doesn't mean you have to be hook, line, and sinker for the stuff.
I got another question from our audience for you. This one comes from Jim. And he is asking, as the oldest of 5 kids in your family, do any other family members share the same gifts you do?
Yes. I have sisters that are terrifically funny, and like I said, 2 of them are probably more psychic than I am. Yeah, definitely. And my nieces and nephews are amazing. They're showing signs and wonders, actually. Yeah. It does and doesn't run in families. It's a real interesting. A lot of times in a reading, I'll be able to tell, particularly in people, again, whom I sense more than regular amount of psychic ability, the people on what sides of their family used to have it.
Do you know if it has been passed down generation through generation in your family?
Yes and no. It's hard to tell because something I'd call psychic, someone else would they call it lots of other things. A sixth sense, second sight was used. It also wasn't that big a deal about 100 years ago. Things that are considered amazing now, like people knowing things simultaneously at great distances, we don't find out until later. It was just more common then. Charles Fort, right?
No.
The guy, Charles Fort, who wrote about anomalies, just mysteries and things that nobody had any explanation for, like it raining frogs or something. Or I just like that there was a world 100 years ago where these extraordinary things could happen and people didn't rain down hard on one side or the other. Like, that's impossible. It never could have happened. It's mass hysteria or whatever. Or people believe it all, like, you know, they were hypnotized or something. That people were able to just describe what happened, investigate it as insofar as at all possible in a rational way, and then come up with something.
You seem to be quite the historian in regards to this. You've talked a lot about history and what you've learned from people in the past and psychics of the past and everything. Do you feel that's important for you or anybody with that ability or learning about the ability to grow?
I think it's important in any field to know, and I also think it's kind of sad that I would be called an historian going back only in the middle of the 20th century. But yeah, I think history is an imperative in any field, any interest. There's scarcely a subject in which I'm interested or one that that isn't just pure pleasure to me. Like, for example, opera. I love opera. I would even sit through 5 hours of a German one just to hear that one note, okay? I'm pretty sure that my love for opera has been increased by just knowing about the history of that. I've always liked history. I've always been a history geek. There's really hardly any part of it I could read about that doesn't interest me. I don't have any... I do believe, and I tell people as I start the reading, I go, there's a couple of subjects I try to stay away from in reading. One is past lives, and the other is spirit guides. Yes, I believe totally in reincarnation, and I am so grateful that I don't walk around remembering my past lives. It's like I've got cat boxes to change, you know. And in terms of spirit guides, we all have a higher, they call it a higher self, whatever, your guardian angel. There's, and I'm not one of these psychics that knows the difference between people's spirit guides and angels, and God bless the psychics that, you know, these ones that invoke angels by name and stuff like that. They're pretty darn good, if you ask me. There's those things. I will, every now and then I will sense a past life in someone, but it's nothing I like talking about because those are about as nebulous, those are nebulous topics that psychics can do. There's one guy, I'm not gonna say who he is. He's very popular and he's all booked up, and all he does is his spirit guides tell people about their past lives, and based on their past life as an ex who was killed by, say you were a persecuted Roman soldier, you were killed like this, and this is why you're like that now. And people find it rewarding, and they feel like things get explained to them that way, and I think it's great. I just don't know that, unless it, quote, resonated with me somehow. I went to have my past life regression. I went to a hypnotherapist. This is about 15, 20 years ago. And as I got in the office, I realized that I had gotten some Holiday Inn hypnotist. He had a picture of him on the wall. It looked like a lot of Oriental people and him, and I'm staring, and he goes, "That's me. I have a world record for hypnotizing Koreans. I hypnotized 3,000 Koreans," and I think I said something smart-ass like, anybody can hypnotize 3,000 Koreans, you know. So as he's doing the hypnosis, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is $150 I'm not going to get back, and I'm just laughing because he sounds like this. "And at the count of 10, I'm going to count back from 9. And there's just, it sounded like a nightclub hypnotist. So you're supposed to open your eyes and look at your feet and describe what you see. And Dave, I swear, I go, God, all of a sudden, I'm seeing this real world. I look down and there are what appears to be Amish people at a giant picnic table. I'm guessing maybe 75 years ago. And I'm wearing some kind of outfit. I'm like an 18-year-old Amish girl. And I am in no way, quote, under. Like, I'm aware of being in the room and all this. And next thing you know, I'm in some, you know, like bedroom that is cleaner than any I've ever had. No dust bunnies under the bed. I'm not even 20 years old, and I'm dying of a fever. And everybody is so sweet, and nobody's hysterical. I'd had this nice little boring religious life, and I was on my way out. And of anything that I could have been hypnotized to recall, this impressed me because I didn't go, I wasn't some, if you listen to Shirley MacLaine, there has never been a life she's had that wasn't stage ready for Technicolor, okay? And this was the most, I'm not saying it was a life of no consequence. I mattered to a very small group of people. I loved them all very much, and I was ready to check out of there. I was fine about going, and that was really, I sound equivocal talking about it. I know I do, but that was really puzzling to me. I thought, now I have a good imagination. Would I have come up with that on my own? And to tell you the truth, I still don't know the answer to it.
And that's what keeps us going, trying to find that answer. Don't you love it when you open all these doors and right behind them is another paranormal door? Just seems to always be.
Yeah. And well, there's that, that place, and there's I call it the Akashic record player. It's where, apparently there is stored every deed and thought that has ever been done or run through someone's head. And that is what they call the collective unconscious. And bits of it rise up. And I'll tell you, when I was little, from 2 to almost 6 years old, and I remember their names, I had 2 imaginary friends. And my mother, without being condescending, used to really ask me a lot of questions about them. One lived on the mantle, and one was behind a door, but they freaked my dad out because the one on the mantle, I used to put this scarf on my head and make this food called merchikar. I made it the same every time, and I served it to him. But I would ask him a question and then apparently sit there for 15 minutes going, uh-huh. And my dad said to my mom, isn't she supposed to talk back to an imaginary friend? And Mom said once, she said to him, that's her teacher. Like, my mother, who's very agnostic, actually blurted out to my dad, like she knew exactly what I was doing. So my point about that is, apparently at 4 years old, I was smart enough to know my spirit guide. And it ends up being that's the guy that it is. That took me a few years after I was meeting other people's dead people to finally, knock on the door of my own spirit guide and say, I think I need some help here.
I want to get to another question here from Eric. Eric is asking, Brett, have you ever picked up something from any of your audiences and then made a joke with it on the fly?
Yes. And I did it one time that was really good, and I did it one time that was extremely regrettable. There was a really mean heckler one night who had been mean to the comedian before me. And she was so mean that when I got on stage, this is funny because I'm getting mad thinking about it. And it's so easy for me to want to go look at a person like this and go, you were a bad person. And she's not. She's just, I promise you, she regrets that night, but I do too. She was so mean to the younger, less experienced comic that when I got up on stage, the room was like, it was like a bloodthirst. It was like, get her, Brett, get her. And it almost made me cry. She was so mean to this comedian before me. And I opened a can on her and you know what? I cheated. I grabbed things out of her life that I had no business grabbing. I had way more than that. I could just dip in the barrel a little bit and given her enough to what they call give her a powder, I didn't. Because she was unfair to someone else, I thought I could be unfair to her, and I regret it to this day. I actually tried to go find her, and she literally ran from the club into the night. And it was wrong of me. I mean, and I got cheered for doing it. So yes, to answer your question, yes. And it was a lesson about Well, I bet she learned one too. But and then in a good way, yes, it's happened that way. It's been really fun too. There's a Yiddish word called tummling. I'm sure I'm not saying it right because I'm a Gentile from Georgia, but it's tummling. It's sort of when comedians are riffing and one joke rolls into the other and you just piss yourself that you're just having so much fun. And that's happened before. That's also very wonderful. Good question, Eric.
Another question from Michael. He is asking, have you ever had someone come through to you that has been dead for literally hundreds, if not thousands of years?
That's a really good question, and darn it. Okay, so there's this thing called deep trance channeling, and I am of mixed mind on it. I'll give an example, and she has a lot of really touchy believers, but her name is J.Z. Knight, and she's up in Yelm, Washington, and you may know her more as she channels a 40,000-year-old spirit named Ramtha, who is apparently homophobic and anti-Semitic, and of late, a bit of an alcoholic, too, who has drinking contests and stuff that, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the woman channeling, right? So, although this Ramtha guy has said incredible things and has devotees, among them were the people who did the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, which I actually am sorry to say I enjoyed. Talk about metaphysical. It has to do with quantum thoughts, what you think and things like that, which are and are not true at the same time. It's talk about cognitive dissonance. So there's the authority. Yes, I do. To answer it plainly, yes, I do think that's possible. To give anyone more authority because they lived that long ago and they choose to come back in a certain person is real questionable. There's a man, you guys should maybe look him up. His name is Paul Selig, S-E-L-I-G. He channels a group of souls who don't have a name, and he has the most peculiar channeling habit. He's also, if I can say, brilliant enough where Tarcher Penguin publishes him. This is not some new age publishing house. This is big dog in the publishing world. It's very elite to be published by. It would be like Viking or something. Paul Selig has not only the weird accent and posture of a deep trance channeler, he whispers one thing because that's him receiving the information, and then he says it in a peculiar accent. I find him, as extraordinary as it sounds, not only believable, but I think he's channeling something pretty high up. I'll give you a less famous example of a man in Florida named Gerald O'Donnell. He's with the Academy for Remote Viewing and Remote Influencing down in Boca, darling. Gerald is an adept. I think he used to be in Black Ops, something like that, with the CIA, and he learned, like some people I know who are extraordinary mystics, who know how to do remote viewing, and that's a completely different field. They really look down their noses at at us psychics that, and I understand, these are a lot of ex-military guys. Gerald O'Donnell, every now and then, if you go look up his website, I'm sure Gerald is doing bona fide deep trance channeling from a very high level. But Gerald, in my opinion, makes an error when he signs off as this has been channeled by the One with a capital O. That means that Gerald O'Donnell believes he's channeling God. I think people have to be really, really careful saying God is coming through their radio.
Me too. It's a dangerous, dangerous thing to say.
On the other hand, as people who talk about A Course in Miracles talk about, I wish I could remember who said this, when people are saying, because the end of the Bible conveniently ends with, if anyone adds to or taketh away from him, thou shalt burn in hell forever, blah, blah, blah. So A Course in Miracles has some, regardless of anyone's opinion about the source, has some wonderful spiritual insights and beautiful messages. But someone said, okay, so God spoke 2,000 years ago and hasn't ever said a word since. And that is a very good argument that people pull out whenever they want, when they want to have a bully pulpit about, the Bible and what's possible. I think we've all seen, especially in recent history, what people can do with any religion if, what they want to. Or my mother's take on it when the business about, ISIL started. And my mother said, what is it? She said, there can be no virgins in heaven. It's mutually exclusive. And I loved her for that.
Question from Dee here in one of our chat rooms. She's a new listener. Thank you so much for tuning on in.
Howdy, Dee.
And she is asking, in the midst of your worst times, did someone from the other side ever come to comfort you?
I didn't think that's what was happening. And I'm still, when you say there's another side and then there's all kinds of floors in the building, I have had, and actually there's a website called, you guys can look this up, it's called Fearless Books. If you look up Brett Butler, Fearless Books interview, there is, and the only reason I'm not saying it now is it's just, I've said it before in an interview. I was struck sober by a few. I had like a grand slam bunch of miracles in one day to knock some sense into me. I to this day I don't know how I deserve getting that many chances in one day. I'm going to paraphrase Steve Earle here, who said Steve Earle was strung out on more stuff than I've actually taken, so I got to go to him. He says, I'm not so arrogant that I think I got saved for some special reason, but I'm a curious SOB and I want to know what that is. So that's kind of how I feel, yeah. And well, I'll put it this way. I'm glad I didn't die because it would have made the wrong people happy.
We still have a plethora of questions from our audience tonight. This one coming from Joe again. He is asking, Brett, have you ever received information from the other side that was too terrifying to ever let anybody know about? And if so, could you whisper it to us?
Absolutely. And, the answer is no to the first part of it. No, there's never been anything so awful and horrific and final that light doesn't outweigh. And that's not just wishful thinking. Someone told me, like, a third of the angels are fallen. And I said, I choose to look at the 2/3 that serve light.
That's all you can do.
You guys, the wolf that lives is the wolf you feed. Don't ever make it more complicated than that. I'll give you an example. I had a client I know that he would write me periodic emails, and I remember not quite at a conscious level thinking, I never hear from the same guy twice. He doesn't really register on mine. He's not like a friend or anything, but I go, every time he writes me a letter, it's like someone different. One time it's about, I'm sick, this is depressing, this was in the news, or then it's some bubbly thing. So how's your career going? And, whatever. So recently he wrote me this I kind of just blew it off, this letter about, I met someone and I'm not sure if it was an entity or an angel, but it did a favor for me and I thought I'd introduce the two of you. And I don't like to react to something, particularly something that a stranger sends me, but I thought about it later and I go, not everybody maybe read the Bible about Jesus in the wilderness or something. Like if you have something you're not sure if it's an angel or a spirit and it starts giving you strokes, angels don't do that. God doesn't do that. There's no mystery identity. And no matter any spirit worth its salt, not only will not mind being tested, they insist on it. So my big thing to people in general is don't be stupid. Just don't be stupid. And don't think, I don't mean the person asked this question. I mean, I was just talking about like somebody can be a grown-up person and think there's something. People have to be as disciplined in their interior lives as they are in their conscious life. You're just not going to go through some dreadful neighborhood with, yes, I hope the next person will do the right thing in an extraordinary random circumstance in which I'm unprotected and think the best of things. But you can think naively in this world. You can just really set yourself up for just illness and injury, and that's why a lot of these people are so, apprehensive and don't trust. And I can tell a lot of people who, I don't know how it is, who have a conscious apprehension and terror in this life that is totally carried over from another one.
Got another question here. This one coming from Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio from Dennis. Good Canadian kid he is. Dennis is asking, Brett, how do you handle people who come to you with the fears of present-day society?
Well, I mean, I'm another citizen. There's nothing they're looking at that I don't see with my eyes big. I say this, and I think being a student, although nominally, and a fan of history, I think it's extraordinary that we live on a planet given the nature of people as it is, and I think there's so many more good people than bad, because the fact that some horrific, just alone the nuclear accident or sin of commission hasn't happened since Hiroshima or Nagasaki is phenomenal. Maybe we've been living on borrowed time. Maybe it's just, maybe it's naive to think that we could continue in any way to not obliterate the planet in a nuclear way when we have a full-scale assault environmentally going on. And I have never been the kind of person that thinks I am better than other people by virtue of the fact that I was born within the boundaries of a certain country, and the fact that could be exercised as kind of a bully pulpit to the rest of the planet right now based on someone's perception of terrorist and religion. So I can be horrified and naive and beat my breast and say, not my president. And even though, talk about history. And I told someone, yeah, it reminds me of Germany in the 30s. And except Germany had a chip on their shoulder in the 30s that we don't have. My mother was, and still is, very naive because she raised us from a Oliver Wendell Holmes quote that says, injustice will not be destroyed until those not affected by it are as outraged as those who are. So when you mention that person who are, freaked out looking at the world, I share the pain and the outrage, and also I've been complicit in getting it to this place. And if you're over 25, you are too. I read my weekly reader when I was a kid going, I sure hope they save the planet from all this pollution that's happening. Well, I don't think I've done a whole lot other than take cloth bags to the grocery store for 20 years, to do that. So, I don't know. I'm sort of surprised we made it this far, kiddo.
Yeah, me too. And I know with my current wife, her and I had a little guy 3 years ago, and I never thought I would be so scared for my children's lives. I really don't.
Right.
Let's just, I think this is where the power of positive thinking comes in. We all kind of put our consciousness together and kind of make it happen. Try and wish some good on this planet for the first time in decades. That's the way I'm leaning for it.
About 10 years ago or so, there was a group of real religious, a certain sect of Christians that all had given their personal belongings away because they knew that the next day the rapture would happen and they would be gone. These are people that gave their houses, their cars, their dogs away, okay? Well, right before this was or wasn't going to happen, my mother said in her very calm voice, she goes, wouldn't it be nice tomorrow if we got up, those people were all gone? And I said, well, Mom, if you read the rest of the book, it doesn't bode well for those of us who will remain. And she said, without missing a beat, I know, but it'll be worth that little bit of time for the peace and quiet. And I love that outlook. It's that having your cake and eating it too with religion, and you show me a God you serve that is benevolent and holds us up to everything we hear about heaven, and show me that same God keeps someone else down under his thumb, and I'll show you. You've done a really good paint by number. You have invented a God that only serves, people that are like you. So I have to be careful and not, this is just me talking. I have to be careful and not demonize people who demonize, because there's my crack in the shell is I deplore bigotry so much that I've been known to hate the bigot. And if I hate the bigot, I am a bigot.
Absolutely. We only
a little self-knowledge is a dangerous thing.
You got that right. We only have about a minute and a half with you. I cannot believe how fast this 2 hours went.
I'm so glad that you asked me to do the show, and I thank you. I just have been jaded about psychic stuff and about the silliness of it all, and your listeners have been fantastic. These have been, I'm not just saying it, these have been the best questions ever. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for having your listeners who ask questions, because that really doesn't happen very often.
Well, we really, really try to keep interactive with our audience, and I think that's why we're gaining a lot of momentum in the nighttime shift here, because without them, I mean, this as a comedian, and it's not a cliche or anything, but without them and them making the emotional commitment to want to be here every night, you can't do it. You got nothing. So I decided everybody's going the other way and just, putting that block between. I said, hell with it. I am going to do it the other way. Brett, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate your time. Hold on one sec. We're coming back with hour number 3 here on Spaced Out Radio, and we're going to be joined by Everett Themer, Eric Markham, and maybe the poet will make an appearance as well, first time in a long time. We'll be back right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines. Your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com. for mind, body, and spirit. And expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Space Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you all along for the ride. What a great 2 hours. If you miss it, you got to check the podcast either on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, TuneIn, iTunes, whatever it may be. I highly suggest you check it out. Tomorrow night on the show, we are going to have Bruce A. Smith with us. We're going to get more into D.B. Cooper. Eric Markham from the Space Wire is going to join me as well. That gets going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time, right here at the mighty spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network. Live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We are also live in Las Vegas. Yes, Renegade Talk Radio, the nighttime place to be in Sin City. Well, probably if you live there, but if you're on the Strip, you're probably partying, so I don't think you're tuning in. But that's okay. We'll still take you at a later date anyways. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is your password. He's taking it easy on me tonight after he literally made my skin crawl with last night's password. But that's okay. We got it nailed down tonight. I'm happy about that. Remember, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Also use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to get a question or a comment in. And I'm loving the comments and the action on there tonight. Keep it up, guys. You're doing great. Don't know where Rahonda is hiding, but she's not on Twitter tonight. She's somewhere in the ever-existence of the internet. You can also give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download this show on iTunes, our website, spacedoutradio.com. And while you're there, we have a plethora of information for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. All right, we bring in Everett Thiemer and Corrine DeWinter from purpleplates.com. I'm trying and efforting, and I know you're listening, Eric Markham. I'm trying to bring you in here on Skype, but it's acting up right now. Keep saying your line is busy. I know it's not. That's a Skype issue. I'm going to try something else here. You got to send me your phone number. Send me your phone number on Facebook, Eric, and I'll try and get you in that way as well. Sometimes Skype likes to act up around here. So in the meantime, while we're trying to bring Eric in, we got Everett and Corrine. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Corrine, where you been hiding?
Oh, my God. You know what? I've been in the depths of hell. You want me to tell you about it? I don't think so.
I know all about it. I know all about it. The question is, are you going to come and support the Space Out Radio team in May when we are in your area of Massachusetts? Because you've been a fan of this show for over 2 years, and you've become a very good friend of mine and a supporter of what we do. I'm going to be hurt.
Yeah.
I'm going to be hurt.
I know. Well, okay, so I told you it's a 4-hour ride, and you said Erica would come get me, and which is so phenomenal that he would do that, and I thank him very much. I have to see, because I do everything last minute, Dave. I never plan that far ahead with anything. So, you know, if I go, and I would love to go because I want to be at that, and I want to meet you. But so it's kind of up in the air right now, but you know, that's because it's so far away. But to me, I don't like to plan ahead, you know?
I know the feeling, but we're trying to convince Everett over here to make the drive too. You know.
Well, you know, I'm planning on coming, but if Eric's swinging around picking people up, if he wants to stop by my house, I'm open to carpool.
I don't think he's taking the byway through Chicago.
I thought I'd just throw that out there.
Well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Well, you should. You know, man, what the hell?
So is this... Is this Everett a newbie? I've never heard of him.
Everett has been part of this team for the last few months. That's how long you've been away. You've been in a Spaced Out Radio coma.
Shit. All right.
Hey, you can't say that on the air.
Can't swear. See, what you don't know, Corrine, is in a couple of weeks, we are actually going terrestrial.
Oh.
We got picked up by our first terrestrial station down in Georgia. They chose us over the other terrestrial late-night programming.
Awesome.
That is available. So we've had to ixnay the swear words in regards to everything, but that's okay. You get a pass because, well, you're the poet, so you get a pass tonight.
Right.
You get a pass tonight. You know, I'm okay with that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
We're going to try Eric on another phone number here. So if you hear a ringing sound, that's what it's going to be. There's one ring. Let's see how long until his beard picks it up. There's 2. I'm going for 4 rings. I think it's going 4 rings.
I say 3.
Oh, there's 3. There's 4. 4 rings, yes! I psychically predicted it. Eric, do me a favor. Turn your speaker down because I can hear myself. I'm in repeat. I'm in repeat right now. Anyhow. Corrine, what did you think of Brett?
Well, I'm going to wait till Eric mutes his
all right. I'm gonna have to call him back. All right. Because we're getting way too much feedback. Way too much feedback on that.
Okay. So what did I think of Brett? I thought she was awesome. I think she knows her stuff very well. She mentioned all kinds of people that I'm very familiar with, having investigated the paranormal my whole life, basically. She mentioned Konstantin Rodova. She mentioned all these other people that I have known the names of for so long. And so she's done her homework. And Catherine in the chat room tonight actually said she had gotten a reading from Brett. And she's the real deal. And I really appreciated that she said that. And she's so real, which is what we look for. You know what I mean? We need real people. She's not afraid to show her faults. She's not afraid to say, I don't know, when she doesn't know. I mean, she's awesome. I thought she was awesome. You know, what did you think, Dave?
I thought she was incredible. I really did. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't know what to expect when we brought her in. You know, she was excited about doing the show. This is a topic that she doesn't talk a lot about publicly. And for her to choose us to be one of the few radio shows in this genre that she actually has decided to talk on, you know, it's pretty incredible. And I got to tell you, you know, off the air, she gave our audience an incredible compliment. She said that she has never been on a show like this that had so much audience participation with the audience questions, and that was just an absolute thrill for her to be able to connect with each and every one of you personally with your questions. And she said she would love to come back. It was a great experience for her, and I'll tell you, I would love to bring her back on. I really would love to bring her back on. And, you know, she actually said she was going to do us a favor. She's going to email me literally what she thought of the show because she was just so impressed. And I'm not saying this to brag, because I think anybody who knows that I'm not a bragger. I don't prophesize to be bigger than we are. I try to remain humble and everything like that, and I try to stay in constant communication with our listeners, you know, and to have someone who has done the media circuit, who's been famous, who's been to the top, and just doesn't care to be there anymore. But to have someone like her basically say, you know, that she loved everything that we do here, including all of you, the listeners, you know, I was giddy, man. I was absolutely giddy.
Yeah.
And the honesty she answered the questions with, you know, it was incredible. I'm going to try and call Eric back here for a second. So you're going to get the ringtone again. I'm going three rings this time. Everett, how many are you going?
I'm going to stick with 3.
Let's see if we're right this time. There's 1, 2. See if he picks up. Oh, my goodness. Eric's having phone troubles over there.
I almost swore.
You almost did. Everett, what did you think of Brett tonight?
I thought she was fabulous. I mean, she knows, it's obvious that this isn't something that she's just decided she's going to do or be. She knows so much about the history and so much about, previous experiments and ideas, and she knows enough to say when she doesn't know something. She's one of the first celebrities that are involved in this that I've actually heard kind of admit to staying away from the whole entertainment factor of the paranormal. And I think that's huge. That's a first step, the first celebrity. Maybe we'll get some more that are going to say that this isn't something we should just turn into a commodity and sell as entertainment. And I'm waiting for you to have her back. I'm ready for that already.
I'm ready too.
Yeah.
I'm ready too. And, I'm going to try Bumblefoot this year. Because he actually is big into the paranormal.
Oh.
He really enjoys the paranormal. And, that's why he loves his music being on this show, is because he absolutely loves it. And he's already told me he wants to come on. But it's just a matter of being able to line up dates, especially going into spring and summer time where it's tour time, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, he is so busy.
Totally.
I know, but the thing is, Dave, you have so many great guests on constantly. And Brett is just one among so many fantastic guests you've had. So, I mean, I know you're going to keep getting fantastic guests. You have the respect of these kind of guests, because you deserve it and you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And that you have such interaction with the audience. Yes, that is so important. And it's like you're respecting the guests and they're respecting you in return, because you're paying attention to them and like they're paying attention to you and listening to your shows. And it's like, it's just an amazing thing. And isn't it strange that no one has done this quite like you have before?
Oh, I think there's been many people who've done it. The only thing that I've done is actually included everyone in the audience. And I think that's been a handicap for a lot of people out there, and I don't really understand why, because to me, it's one of the funnest parts of this show.
And Dave, one of the interesting or kind of amazing things is when you scroll through the comments and you look through the questions, they're smart questions. There aren't a lot of people asking questions to get a rise or kind of a snarky question. These are thought out, intelligent questions that people want real answers to. And she did a great job at actually addressing and answering them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she did. And I liked the fact that she was so blunt about her answers. She told us, like you said, she told us what she knew. She told us what she didn't know. And she wasn't afraid to hide behind what she didn't know. And for her to be that relaxed on the air in something that is still, I think, maybe a little bit of an uncomfortable topic for her, I really thought that Brett did an amazing job. I mean, I'm like all of you, though. I would have loved for her to give out some names about who else is psychic or having maybe alien abduction experiences, who works in Hollywood, and the names that we know. But you just can't push that button because there is a respectability that you have to have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You wouldn't want people that you know necessarily doing that to you, and just because she has famous friends or friends in show business doesn't mean that she should be doing it to them either.
No, exactly. And there still is a brotherhood there, or a sisterhood, that has to be protected. You know, but...
No, right. I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. I'm trying to still connect with Eric Markham here as well, and I'm not just having any luck with this, you know?
So...
What could he possibly be doing?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe
He's working, right? He's at
No,
work.
no, he's actually off tonight. I bet you it's his cats that are playing havoc with his system. Oh, there he is. There he is. Was it your cats playing havoc with your system, Eric?
No, they're upstairs.
Ah.
He had that carving guitar cabinet turned up too loud.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Hey, I got to tell you, I learned another chord yesterday on the guitar, so now I've officially learned as many chords as I have guitars. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm up to 4 chords.
Nice.
I'm up to 4. That C chord is a bitch, man. It is a vicious, vicious chord, okay? But I am about to rock. I am getting closer to rocking than I've ever rocked before.
With 4 chords, you can just about get 2 albums out.
Yep.
I'm working on it. I just don't have the speed or the coordination yet, but I am working on it. You know?
If you want to have fun with that C chord, try using it as a movable bar chord. That's
You
a
got-
finger twister.
Eric, you got to turn your volume up just a tad, okay? If you don't mind.
All right. How's
Get a
that?
little close. Yeah, you're sounding beautiful now. And
Okay.
yes, Corey in the chat room, you can bring your guitar over and we can rock now. We can almost officially rock now. Now, if I just could read the notes, I'd be happy. I know where the fingers go. I just haven't been able to get the notes over. So, Eric, I've got Corrine's and Everett's opinion on this. And by the way, apparently you have to detour through Chicago to pick Everett up for the conference in Boston.
That's a hell of a detour.
Yeah, all the way from North Carolina. But what was your opinion of Brett Butler tonight?
Awesome. I just loved the way she put things and the way she was kind of no nonsense, but I get the feeling she actually does what she can not to cold read. I hope you get her back. I hope she comes back on. 2 hours is just not enough with her.
I agree. I would love to get her for the full hour. And I felt bad. Like, she actually apologized earlier on when I talked to her, because when we were emailing back and forth, she's just like, Dave, I hope you don't mind. I literally am doing 12 hours worth of readings today. I'm not going to have the energy to do any live readings on the show. And I'm like, yeah, I can respect that. I have no problem with that. I'd like to get a reading by her just to test it on out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of fun, you know? Corrine, I want to ask you about readings, if you don't mind.
Okay.
When you are getting the feeling like you're picking up something, there's so much inaccuracy compared to accuracy when you're learning how to do this. How do you battle the inaccuracy as you hone your skills in order so you don't get frustrated or upset with what you are trying to accomplish?
Well, here's the thing. So I got into an argument with someone the other night about Sylvia Brown. Now, you guys probably know who Sylvia Brown was, right? She passed away a few years ago. And she gave readings on the Montel Williams show to two people who were missing their sons. Like the sons went missing. And Sylvia told one couple that they would never see their son again, but he was found a couple years later after she died. So the mother had died in the meantime, and I thought, so then she did it again with someone else. She said, your kid is never going to be found. In other words, he's dead. But they weren't dead. They were found. I find that really offensive. And I got into a fight with this person, and the person said, well, no one is 100%. But the thing is this, when you are a reader, you do not give information that could change people's lives unless you are absolutely positive about it, okay? I found that totally wrong that Sylvia did that. And she had like a 20% correct record when she died, by the way. And so she wasn't very correct in her last years, okay? So she gave those readings, and I felt that was totally wrong. Now, if I'm getting a message and it's going to be something life or death, or is my daughter dead or alive, if I am not totally sure, I'm not going to answer that, and no one should, because that changes people's lives. And so how do I deal with it? And there's a thing where people say, whatever you're getting, as ridiculous as it sounds, put it out there. Yes, to a certain degree. And so that's what I do. It's like, even if I said to you, Dave, you've got this jelly bean fetish. And, it's like jelly beans have been huge in your life. I'm not harming you by saying that. If I say to you, your daughter, God forbid, is going to get into an accident or something, that's life-changing. That's harmful. So I think we have to be conscious, and I think Brett mentioned that tonight. You have to be conscious, really conscious about what you're telling people, because none of us are all knowing. And we just have to admit, no, I don't know this. I'm not sensing anything. I'm not getting anything on this. But you get my point, right, Dave?
I absolutely get your point. Eric, I'm curious to get your opinion on that. Do you feel that, whether it's Brett or Corrine or any psychic out there, that sometimes they push the limits a little bit too far to try and build their profile and credibility rather than just giving the answers?
I think in the case with psychics ought to be like doctors, in that their credo should start with first, do no harm. I think there comes a point where even if you're dead 100% sure, maybe there's a way to couch it in such a way that softens the blow. And it's so tenuous. I mean, psychics have the ability to touch people's lives. The right person will believe anything the psychic tells them, whether the psychic deserves it or not. And I think that calls for a great deal of responsibility. And I think you should not put things out there that are hurtful.
And like Eric just said, Dave, being a reader comes with huge responsibility. Exactly, Eric.
I mean, you can actually completely rewire somebody's life with just a few careless words. If they,
right.
the repercussions can just echo down through their reality for the rest of their lives.
But then how do you temper that? If somebody's coming for a reading and they just have their own internal feeling that something's wrong, something bad's going to happen, and then a psychic sees that or feels that or senses that, and they pull back and maybe don't say anything about it, aren't they in some way doing a little bit of a disservice in terms of what the person seeking the reading is looking for?
I hear what you're saying. I'm sorry, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
That's Everett. He's got really nice hair, too.
Everett, I'm sorry. But one of the things that is like an unspoken rule among readers is that you don't give information that is, like that is like, oh, your sister's going to go to the hospital. You don't give that kind of information unless they can do something about it. Okay. And it's also very well known, well, at least to me, that the dead cannot give us information that is going to change our life path. Okay? You guys know that, right? We can't get information from the dead about what direction should I take? Can you go to my ex-boyfriend and tell him to come back to me? Like nothing like that. They're not going to interrupt your life path because your life path is for a reason. You got to go through what you're going to go through.
Well, don't you also run the would you also run the risk of actually pushing them into disaster if you see something ahead that could happen? And I mean, the future is so full of flux anyway that if you do see something, there's no guarantee that some little butterfly thing down in South America isn't going to derail it, you know. But if you warn them about something, could that not, in its own way, push them into making it a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yes, that's possible also. Say that I said to someone, you better check the wires in your house because I see a fire there. And they check all the wires in their house and see that one of them's loose. And on the other hand, see that none are loose. Then there's no harm there. But if there was one loose that could have started a fire, they've been helped. You know what I mean?
Or they loosened it while they were looking around trying to test to see. We used to have something in the Navy we called fix it till it's broke. We had to go through, and the way we had to test certain circuits, you know, grab this wire and wiggle it. Well, you know, you wiggle it enough times, you break it. So you're still in that, did the loose wire cause a fire, or did them looking for the loose wire loosen a wire? You know what? That's why I would not want to be a predictive psychic. It just, you could sit there and take something down the quantum path and be, I don't know. I guess I would just be paralyzed with indecision. Do I tell them? Do I don't? I would not want the responsibility, to be honest.
No, I wouldn't. I don't want the responsibility either. Now, Catherine James brings up a good point here. Future, past, present all happen at once, fixed together at one moment. Indeed, what she's, referring to here, I think, Catherine, is that, we have all these different timelines going on. You know what I mean? You make a decision, but then there's the other timeline that says, and if you believe the different timelines happening all at once, your past and your future. There's so many variations, so many choices that perhaps decide what our lives are like. And, in this timeline, you could go crazy just thinking of all the different factions of a lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, this life, So, I don't know. But, Eric, you also don't strike me as seeking out a psychic or a medium for help. Mediums, of course, are a different story than psychics. And mediums are simply there to contact you with your dead loved ones. which that's a lot safer than saying, can you give me a prediction about my future and this job and what should I do and where should I move to? That's certainly safer. But you don't strike me as being someone that seeks out that, but I hear what you're saying.
I'm going to hop in here for a quick second. Bill Cardwell has given Everett Themer a rather large mention for his hair, so your hair got a big mention tonight, Everett. I know that's going to make you happy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, anytime you can get a big mention, that's a good part. You have to be a part of the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook in order to get the rather large mentions out there from Bill. But I do want to say about Bill and Lisa, they actually went on Brett Butler's Facebook page and put a couple of comments on there. I would suggest anybody from our audience, if you're listening to this show, go on our Facebook page. There's a big thing on Spaced Out Radio there. If you want her back, put it on there. Tell her to come on back. I'm sure she will. I'm sure she will. So that was kind of cool. Very cool.
Very.
I want to get to Joe's comment because he just made a comment here. Normally when we ask for questions, I ask you to put it in capital letters, so I know Joe's not forming this in a question, but I think it's important. He says, I'm a little hesitant to have a psychic read me because there are a lot of things about me I don't think people should know. Everybody has secrets. Is that weird? Everett, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Is it weird that he's afraid that somebody's going to maybe sense his secrets?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think we all have things that are, we don't want discovered. But I have a feeling that there are psychics out there that can walk past you and sense your secrets or pick up what your secrets are, whether you're sitting there for a reading or not. So I guess really it doesn't matter. You just kind of have to hope you don't walk past a psychic who, writes a blog and wants to expose somebody. I think that if you have a secret and there are psychics, they probably know it.
But Corey Everett makes a very good point to Joe's point. It's a counterpoint. She says, knowing the secrets helps heal you. Would you agree with that?
I do.
Having other people know the secrets?
Well, for instance, if you get a reading from someone and they bring out those secrets, does that not maybe help heal?
I think it can. But I also think that there are some secrets that people have that if they came out could destroy their lives. It really depends on what their career path is, what their position in society is. There are some things out there that, whether right or wrong, the person who has that secret should be allowed to reveal it when they're comfortable with it.
I just got told off by Jeff in the chat room to buzz off because he does suffer from male pattern baldness. So he's a little jealous. John, our new listeners, I'm not sure if he goes the French-Canadian way of Lanier or if he goes the American way of Lanier. He says he has nice hair too, so that's good. And Rachel likes hairy guys just like her husband. We're good with the hair around here. If you got a nice set of hair or a good quality beard, I highly suggest you do. And Bill in the SOR Space Travelers Club, I gave you a big mention, but I gave Lisa one too. She needs a big mention in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And you got to get on Twitter and get the guys on hashtag Spaced Out Radio a big mention because they are rocking it in there as well. So we're going to give the Twitter people at hashtag Spaced Out Radio a big mention as well. Thank you. But John pronounces it the American way. He's a Lanier. He's a Lanier. That's okay. Yeah. It's okay. He's got good hair. He's got that.
You Canadians have such a smooth way of pronouncing so many words.
Like what?
Huh?
Like what?
Obviously not boot or a boot.
I caught myself. Hold on a second. I caught myself when Brett was talking about the Canadian accent. I caught myself saying "oot." I did catch myself, and I got embarrassed. I really got embarrassed.
I heard you slip in a couple of A's.
I didn't even notice.
But that's not completely a Canadian thing, because when I go up to the UP, if I spend any time in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I come back with this horrible accent that I can't get rid of for a couple of weeks. And I'm throwing the A's in there everywhere.
Mm-hmm. It's because you're almost one of us.
Yeah, I know.
All of you beautiful American listeners, our language is going to invade. You're going to be saying A after every word instead of huh? What? I'm just saying. We're invading, man. We're invading.
I heard you want to take California from us.
Yeah, I heard
you
that.
Can have
it. You know what? I would want it because I'll tell you right now. We don't have very many nice beaches in British Columbia. We really don't. You take away Tofino on Vancouver Island, and literally that's about it. I would take that coastline. I'm not going to lie. I would totally.
You can take that coast, but you cannot have Nevada.
I would
Savages.
think you'd want that thrown in.
Savages. How dare you? How dare you? I want Nevada. I do. I really want Nevada. We'll take that one, too. We'll take that one.
So, Dave, don't you think this...
Hold on.
Dave, don't you think this is interesting that Catherine James just asked me about her sister who went to the hospital and she has multiple sclerosis when I have it too?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. You broke up a little bit there. I'll read Catherine's question for you, Corrine. She says, can you tune in on my sister Susie's energy? She went to the hospital today for her multiple sclerosis. For some reason, my family's energy is the hardest for me to read. Fire away. Fire away.
I'm just, can you hear me? Am I breaking up?
You sound beautiful now. Thank you.
Okay. I think that she is very strong. And I'm reading her latest comment. She's one of the only people who supported me. She was hooked up to 3 types of drips. She's very strong. She has the will to live. I mean, she's like, no, this is not happening to me. I've got this, and that's what she has on her side. I think she will be okay. I do think she will be okay. I think she'll be out of this hospital in, within the week. I think she'll be out. God bless her. And, I'll keep her in my prayers. I have a prayer list. It's huge, but I'll put her on my prayer list. And, not that my prayers do more than other people's, but I think they do. Anyway.
Well, I miss that laugh around here. I'm not going to lie. I miss that laugh. Just so you know, I will not trade. I'll take Justin Bieber back for Nevada and California and Washington and Oregon. I'll take him back for that.
Yeah, I would. But anyways.
Just remember a couple of things here, America, as you go through a tough time down there. When you voted in Bush Jr., we gave you Celine Dion. When you voted him in again, we gave you Nickelback. Then when you voted in Obama, we gave you Bieber. And then Bieber squared Drake the second time around. Just imagine what we're going to give you for Donald Trump now.
Well, nothing could be worse. Nothing could be worse than Nickelback.
Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. Right?
Dave, you should learn some Nickelback songs. They're most of them aren't that hard.
Well, considering
one of our forum members was in a cover band. Some of you guys know Bundy, and they played a couple of the Nickelback tunes, and you could just see it in his eyes. It's like, I'm hating this. I'm hating this.
Yes.
So that's funny. Corey loves Nickelback. So can I mention what today is the anniversary of? February 2nd. And I had a dream about this guy last night, and that's why I'm bringing it up right now, if you don't mind. Sid Vicious died on February 2nd from an overdose. And, of course, if you guys know the story about the Sex Pistols, he was in the Sex Pistols, and then he was in jail over supposedly killing Nancy Spungen. And so I had a dream last night that he didn't die, that he was actually just in hiding, and he was going on tour. And he loved me. You know, I dream, everybody loves me in my dream. I don't know why. But anyways, so but Sid died today on February 2nd, and he was only 21 years old. So that's where it is. So I just, speaking of 3 chords and, an album, I mean, he couldn't really play. He played bass. He couldn't really play very well. But, yeah, still a source of a little bit of pain for me, even though I didn't even know that, in 1979 when he died, I wasn't even aware of Sid Vicious in 79 because I was a little girl, but still it's sad. You know what I mean?
Well, that was punk in a nutshell, is nobody could play.
Mm-hmm.
It was all just about the raw sound, the getting out there and making the noise. That's what the punk movement was about until it got commercialized. But that's another story. But you didn't have to be able to play worth a darn to be in a punk band. That was the beauty of it.
Yeah, totally. Yep. I know.
By the way, Corrine, Joe says he is going to use your laugh as his notification sound now.
That's good.
And Derek on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, there's nothing wrong with Bryan Adams. He's a good Vancouver kid. Nothing wrong with Bryan Adams. See, the problem, if we talk about Canadian music here for a second, I have to tell you, most Americans will never hear this band, but they are a Canadian icon, and I remember one very popular American DJ saying that he couldn't believe that this band had never made it in the United States, and it's a band called The Tragically Hip. And
I remember them.
I know them.
And I'll tell you, their lead singer, God bless him, Gord Downey, he's an activist. He's about preserving Canadian culture. Well, he is dying of a brain tumor.
Oh, no.
Yes. And so in order to, and this is the kind of guy he is, okay, in order to, instead of just walking off into the sunset, he said, screw it, we're going to do one more Canadian tour. And they did one more tour, and their final show, which played in his hometown of Kingston, Ontario, which is the birthplace of hockey. Yes. Anyways, and Don Cherry, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, they actually played it right across the country nationally on the CBC.
Wow.
And you can find that.
I remember hearing that.
And you can absolutely find that online, and I highly suggest you do. But if you're a music buff and you want to hear some really good Canadian music, you definitely want to check out The Tragically Hip.
No, they are definitely cool. I really like them,
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that we have to forgive Canada for some of their musical exports, because honest to God, years ago, decades ago, they sent us Rush. Now, you can just about pump raw sewage into the airwaves after that and be forgiven.
Right.
Don't forget the lesser knowns. Second and third place would be Loverboy and Triumph.
Triumph, I liked. Loverboy, I didn't like the vocals. I loved Rick Emmett's guitar work, though.
What about the Guess Who?
Guess Who are good.
Oh, yeah.
Neil Young. We gave you Neil Young.
Yeah, come on now. Neil Young?
But he had to team up with Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
No. He's great on his own.
I like his songwriting, but I wish he'd sing somebody else. I wish he'd hire somebody to sing them for him. I never liked his vocal quality.
I had one of those rock and roll moments one time at a very famous bar in Vancouver called the Roxy. And the Roxy annually is voted the best bar by NHL players on a yearly basis around the league. And one night after a Canucks game, we go in there, and Mike Reno from Loverboy is in there. And so the house band decides to, first off, Bill Cardwell, no, he was not slagging Rush. He says that it was a great gift to America when we gave them Rush. Anyways.
Oh, yeah. Never slagging Rush.
So here's Mike Reno, and he's all of about 5'6", still wearing the headband and sunglasses. Getting up, but the problem is Mike Reno now is about 250 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's rocking on stage, and he still sounds great. And the whole time I'm watching him, all I'm doing is praying that he doesn't do the splits, or something. Like, I wasn't even listening to the music. I was like, oh my gosh, like, please don't do the splits. At your age, you'll never come back from that, right? I was scared for him. I was honestly scared for Mike Reno on stage. Apparently, I'm supposed to say Canucks again.
I still have Loverboy posters for sale.
I know.
If anyone wants one. And patches. But you know what? You guys
listen. I want the GNR stuff.
Listen, I got the GNR stuff too, but come on, Leonard Cohen?
Yes.
It,
God
man.
bless him.
That is it.
Yeah, boom.
Canadian, come on, man. He was so good. Mm-hmm. And he remains to be one of the best ever lyricists, songwriters, and writers ever.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite poet ever. And Corrine, you know who number 2 is. Come on, tell us who number 2 is.
I hope it's me.
It is you. It is you. Of course.
But Dave, if there's all this great music up there, why are you guys developing Justin Bieber's?
Actually, we didn't. It was Usher down in Atlanta who developed him. I'll take blame for Drake, because that cell phone song, that thing is the most horrible piece of, I almost said it, I've ever heard. Okay, it shows you how dumbed down these millennial society is when that cell phone song could be a hit. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I don't like it. So I'll take blame for Drake. Thank you, Degrassi Junior High.
God, is that still on?
Up here, yeah. It's an iconic show.
That was a PBS show when I was a kid.
They had a reboot of it on Nickelodeon or
okay.
somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And also, not only did Canada send us Rush, they sent us the Red Green Show.
Yes.
After those two things, I mean, you can forgive so many sins after that. Love the Red Green Show.
True. Sebastian Bach from Skid Row. He's Canadian.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's from Toronto.
Look at him now. Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, but he still has nice hair. Give him a break. He still has nice hair.
Yes. No, I know.
And
oh my God, Jewel was Canadian, you guys?
No, Jewel's American. She's from Alaska.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Sebastian Bach still looks better than he could for, his lifestyle choices. Mm-hmm. There are some people from the same era that just don't look at all rock and roll or rock starish anymore. At least Sebastian Bach sort of can still pull it off.
Oh, yeah. He's got
great mouth. He tries.
Well, I think he looks like old.
He does not.
He looks like an old Polish woman to me.
Oh,
now.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Wow.
That's Steven Tyler.
Listen, hey, I saw Steven Tyler on the street. Like, this was back when I was like 17. I was going to see Duran Duran. Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
Hold on, time out. Before you go any further, how big was your hairsprayed satellite on the top of your forehead here? You know, the bangs.
It was probably huge. Yeah. Striper. Remember Striper? Shit. Yep. I still like Striper, actually.
I like Striper.
I don't listen to him actively.
I was a big
seriously,
Rat fan.
So Steven Tyler, listen, let me tell you my Steven Tyler story. So I'm like waiting outside for John Taylor and Duran to come out.
Your Skype is stuttering. Corrine, your Skype is stuttering.
And this was at a time Aerosmith was okay.
Yeah, we're only getting about every second word.
Oh, it is. I can see that. Shoot. All right, I'm going to shut up for a minute.
Okay. We're going through some really good music, but you guys have forgot the number one band in the world.
Rush.
Come on. Come on. Yes, turn up the radio. You're sick.
GNR.
Okay. Guns N' Roses. That's where it all begins and ends. With a little mixture of Iron Maiden and Metallica for dessert.
I'll tell you what, man. Iron Maiden still sells like crazy.
Yes, they do.
Guns N' Roses, not so much. You know?
People are just getting used to it again. I've got my tickets for September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be 7 times in the last 5 years. I'm excited.
Now, who's in excess? Oh, my God. Yes. Robert White says in excess. Oh, my God. I have so many in excess stories.
He's an Aussie.
I love Mike.
If it isn't Midnight Oil, In Excess, or AC/DC, or Kevin Bloody Wilson, he has no other music coming out of there.
Well, no. Come on. In Excess was a great band, man. You know? I actually made out with Michael Hutchins, but that's another story.
That wouldn't surprise me. Eric, time out a second. Eric de la Louisiane in hashtag Space Out Radio. He says Rush is 20 times better than Guns N' Roses. You're a sick individual. Okay,
there's 30 times.
Cold Chisel's great. No, this guy from Australia, he's totally freaking cool. He's saying Cold Chisel. Yeah, all those bands are fantastic. Midnight Oil, all those bands.
Gina.
Anything from Australia. The Divinals. I love the freaking Divinals, too.
That's because
Colin Hay has a new solo album coming out in a month, and I've heard some of it, and it is really good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Rachel, you broke the cardinal sin here. There is no country music talk or Joni Mitchell talk in Spaced Out Radio Land. Alabama does not count. Okay, but hold on. Let's bring up a story here, though. How about a little Copperhead Road talk tonight on the show? Steve Earle.
Yeah. I met him.
Yeah.
Steve Earle's great. Yeah.
Fantastic artist. Artist.
Of course, he was overdosing in our emergency room at Vandy, but he was drunk or Cooter Brown. He won't remember back when he was Back when he was partying hardy.
Right. That's interesting, Eric.
I don't know, though, Dave. I have to agree with you. I mean, Guns N' Roses is just the embodiment of bluesy, dirty, hard rock, heavy metal, blues guitar.
It's filthy.
I remember when Appetite for Destruction came out, and I started learning it, and it made me feel like I should open up another bottle of Jack Daniels and just keep on playing. The sad thing is I was in high school at the time.
I like Dennis's comment at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. The band, 70s band Chilliwack. Let me tell you. Did any American ever hear of the band Chilliwack? They sung My Girl.
I've heard of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Believe it or not, I worked in Chilliwack for 8.5 years. It's an actual place. Great fishing there. Some of the best salmon fishing in the world. Right there. On this 30-kilometer stretch of river. It's amazing. Biggest fish I've seen. Biggest fish I ever saw pulled out of that river was a 62-pound salmon.
God, that was a monster.
Oh.
Yeah.
It sounds like the kind of town that the only thing you can do in is fish. Is there anything else?
You know what? There is some beautiful, majestic mountains around there. But yes, fishing, a lot of lakes, skiing is nearby. You know what? Believe it or not,
good fishing. You don't need anything else.
Yeah. So all these people are putting different bands in the chat room. Def Leppard, Frank Zappa. Zappa
Absolutely.
Was it, man. Zappa was.
Hold on a second here. Hold on. I guess we forgot to watch the clock here. Hold on. Good night, Revolution Radio. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Let's get rid of the rest. Well, here we go. Let's keep this thing going here for a little bit here. We're getting way too good here. Way too good. By the way, Chilliwack. Hey, I'm talking. Chilliwack. You were asking about Chilliwack. I can tell you this: there is a hell of a lot of paranormal activity there and UFO sightings, and it is like the start of the hub of where Bigfoot sightings start in British Columbia as you come out of Washington State.
Right.
Maybe we should go there.
I've been there many times.
Maybe when I move to Canada, I'll move there.
That's a good place. I'll tell you what the only problem with Chilliwack is. Once you get used to the Dutch smell of money, which is farmers spraying manure all over their farmer fields. Anyways,
I'm used to that.
That's a true story, by the way. The Dutch people of Chilliwack actually call it the smell of money when the farmers are resonating their field odors all over the town. But the biggest problem that Chilliwack has is it's right at the end of the valley. Okay, so what happens is you got literally 2.5 million people living in the greater Vancouver area. And about 1.8 million of them drive because Vancouver's transit system is horrible. So all that pollution on a daily basis all flutters into Chilliwack. So if you get a nice warm stretch of sunny days, okay, you're literally, I'm going to say, 10 miles, if that, maybe 5 miles from the mountains. And there are days out there you cannot even see the mountains due to the pollution. That's how bad it can get out there. That's the only problem with Chilliwack. Guns N' Roses, Paradise City, greatest song ever. Ever! Eric D. at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Ever!
I don't know. Rocket Queen is pretty fun to play.
Rocket Queen is a great song, but it is no Paradise City.
My favorite to play is Sweet Child of Mine.
No, I mean, you know what? I saw Guns N' Roses only once. Dave, how many times have you seen Guns N' Roses?
7 times. Well, this year, hold on. There was 2012. That's when we found out Mrs. SOR was pregnant with little SOR because she was craving pineapple juice instead of alcohol. And then when they went back to, I saw them in 2011 in Vancouver, 2012 in Las Vegas, 3 times in 2014 in 6 nights in Vegas, 2016 in Las Vegas for the opening of the night of the Not in This Lifetime tour, and then I will see them back in Vancouver on September 1st.
But did you see them when they released Appetite for Destruction?
No, I'll tell you why. Okay, I had tickets to the show. The first time rolling through Vancouver would have been 1992 on the Use Your Illusion tour. And they were touring with Faith No More and Metallica. And they started the tour in Montreal, and they were making their way west. Well, in Montreal, James Hetfield from Metallica got too close to a pyrotechnic explosion, and it burnt his hands. So he was out of the tour for a little bit, and Axl started developing the voice problems, and he lost his voice. So they had to cancel the rest of the Western Canadian part of the tour, so I didn't get a chance to see them. I was about to buy scalper tickets in Vancouver in 96, or pardon me, about 98, when they were touring again, but this time when all the original members were fired or just quit, and they ended up kind of wrecking GM Place. Maybe that was 2006. I think that was 2006. And I didn't get to see them then, and well, there was no show that time. So the next time they came around was 2011, and that's when I first saw Bumblefoot play. And he's amazing. And that's where it was literally 5 days after my whole spiritual journey began. And that kind of started the whole thing, you know.
Right.
Is Buckethead still around? I know he's not in GNR anymore, but
yeah, I think he's doing the country fair circuit now.
Makes sense. I mean, he was good. Not really appropriate for Guns N' Roses, but he technically and through theory was really good.
Well, I know Bumblefoot knew about the GNR. And by the way, Eric, you made a great comment in the chat room that Joe Bonamassa is fantastic. Yeah, he's fantastic. But Bumblefoot knew about the GNR reunion going back to, I think, 2012, 2013, that it was actually starting. And it's kind of weird, though, you know, and I dare not ask him because I know he really did not get very excited about Axl. You know, I think Axl left a really bad taste, you know, musically in his mouth. And so I've never really talked to him about it, but I could say this, that, you know, it's kind of weird for him to know that his replacement was Slash. You know, like, how weird is that? The original is replacing you. You can't compete with that.
Well, that's that you have to be replaced by Slash is pretty. That's pretty good.
Oh, absolutely, you know. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, when I saw Slash Slash play in Las Vegas, I mean, that was the first time I'd ever seen Slash play. I had tickets for a show in Vancouver for him, but coincidentally, I had to skip those tickets that night because Johnny Enoch was coming over to my house to discuss the creation of Spaced Out Radio that night. That was October 2nd, 2014.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Johnny Enoch is the whole beginning of this whole thing.
Yeah, we can blame him. We can blame him.
And by blame, you mean give credit to?
Yeah, well, you know what? It was his fault. He just kept pestering me. But I'm glad, because I would have never got to know any of you.
That's true, and we wouldn't have gotten to listen to you and get to know you.
Oh man, I'm just the piece here, man. I'm just the navigator. That's all.
You know, I have a feeling that my wife's going to be a little irritated with me, because after all this music talk, I just have that urge to put in some of that Slash with Miles Kennedy.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh yeah.
I just have the urge to put that in and turn it up to the threshold of pain, and and
especially Anastasia, where it starts off with the Spanish guitar.
That is fabulous.
Yeah, it is a beautiful song. You know, I could Mrs. SOR is right above me. I wonder. Hold on.
Oh, break it out. Come on, let's hear those chords. Let's hear those chords.
Oh, no, I can't do that yet. Don't
get banished to the couch, big man.
Yeah, she will get pissed off. Oh, fuck it. Oops.
I don't know. Whoops.
$1
Four chords with a little overdrive on them. You will be the next Canadian export.
Oh no, it's horrible.
Yeah, we're not recording. We're not recording anymore, right?
Oh hell yeah, we are. We're still live.
Okay, so I have to still not swear. I just want to swear.
No, I you know what? I won't do it. I cannot do it. I will not play the guitar. I will not play the guitar tonight.
Play it, man.
No. There's people sleeping right above me.
Who cares, man?
Well,
play the freaking guitar.
They won't be for long.
No.
I'll send you a cowbell.
No. I'm way too embarrassed. I'm not good. Oh.
You and I are going to have to do a Skype session and get
Corey,
a jam we can do.
Corey, we are not playing Maroon 5. Okay? No man likes Maroon 5. Okay?
Go so far as say, who is Maroon 5?
Ronald is saying...
You don't know who Maroon 5 is?
No.
Oh, my God.
Good for you.
You are lucky.
What's his name? Adam, whatever his name is. Adam
Lambert.
No.
He's a freaking moron.
I know he's got moves like Jagger. I know that.
What's his name?
What?
That was one of their songs.
Oh, my God. Whatever.
We may still be live. Lisa's asking...
Levine. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah.
Adam Levine. Okay, come on, man.
And we gave you Avril Lavigne too. By the way, America.
We don't care about that bullshit. We don't care about that.
She's always so angry.
Well, it's all complicated for her.
So when she came out, everyone was like, "Oh, she's so punk."
No.
Come on.
No, she's not.
Us people that are older, we know what punk is and what it was. And it can never be again. And it's like, it makes me so mad. You know what I mean? She sucks.
Oh, you're so negative.
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
You're so negative.
I can be positive. But not when it comes to Nickelcock. That's what Ron said.
So, Dave, what we're going to have to do is get you a dump button.
Why?
Just for when things slip out.
There we go. That is my... one chord that I know.
That's all you know?
I'm learning.
It was 4 earlier.
Come on, play Smoke on the Water.
I can't. I don't even know that one yet.
G? Or no, G.
I haven't learned G yet.
Oh. All right. We have to have a Skype session and go over some rock chords.
Hold on, I gotta get that other bastard here. What the hell is this one? I'm playing on my court right now.
That is a sweet-looking guitar.
It is a sweet-looking guitar. That's all I got. That's all I got. I got no game right now. But I'm learning. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay that I'm just learning. Yeah. Okay, I think that's about enough. That's all I can do. Because I really, you know what? There's just something about it where turning the sound down on a guitar really sucks. You know? It really does suck.
Wouldn't know. I've never done that.
Oh. I'm happy about that.
It's the first step.
It is the first step. I'm gaining confidence. I can now literally not even have to look at the fretboard. Almost. I'm almost there where I don't need to look at the fretboard to make my finger changes.
Now, are you just using the amp distortion, or are you using overdrive, or a pedal?
I don't have a pedal, but you're way too technical right now, man. I'm just happy to be getting sound out of it.
My first amplifier was playing through a Radio Shack microphone mixer through my record player, my Panasonic record player.
That had to sound interesting.
All right.
Oh, it wasn't bad. Till I blew out one of the output transistors in the Panasonic.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I got to tell you, I'm learning off a program online called Musician. Great program. And I'm actually learning quite a bit off of it because I really don't have time to go out into the community and actually hire a pro teacher. And so I'm learning on that. So they have this section on there that has songs. And, of course, the first song I want to seek out is Paradise City, and They Got It There. I am so far away from that. So far away from that, man. It's ridiculous.
You'll get there.
Eventually I will get there. You know, eventually I know I will get there. And Joe Allgaier is showing a beautiful picture of the SOR Space Travelers Club of his Gibson S1.
Nice.
And
How old is Gibson? Does he say?
I don't know. He hasn't said yet. We're going to put that. JP says, I have a midnight blue chord with a whammy bar. I will teach you the Hendrix chord. I'm good for that. Because, I mean, anytime you can get a little voodoo child in there, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Maybe it's because I'm so attached to Les Pauls. I just don't care about the whammy bars.
What do you got? You got a gold top, Everett?
I've got Les Paul Customs.
Okay, so you don't have a Les Paul gold top.
No.
Okay. Wouldn't you like one?
You know, I've got a 74 Les Paul triple humbucker custom, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's kind of my second wife.
Mm.
So do you play? Do you play for the public, or what do you do with it?
I don't play so much in public anymore, but now I bow down before it every day and wipe it off and play it a few times a week.
Mm-hmm. So you used to play in public? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're married, huh?
Yep.
That's too bad.
Wow. Right in front of her online radio boyfriend. Terrible. And here I thought I was the only voice for you online. Damn it. Damn you.
I'm kidding.
And my wife should be storming across the yard into the studio here any minute.
No, you admitted it. You admitted it. I do have to say though, there's this store in my little town here that has, I forget what kind it is, but it's like a 1981 or 82 Flying V guitar. And every time I go in there, this thing it's black and white. Every time I go in there, I want to buy it, but they want like $600 for it.
Never got into the Flying V.
Well, I want to add one to my collection. But I did, you know what? I mentioned a Bumblefoot the other day. I was actually chatting with him. And I basically said, don't laugh that I own more guitars than I know chords. And I said, hey, I gotta get my way up there. I said, because I want to buy one of your retired guitars that's autographed. And he's like, if you learn a bunch of these chords, maybe we can make something happen.
Oh.
So now I gotta go and literally learn a bunch of these chords. Chords I've never heard of.
Like D sus4.
Hold on.
A augmented 7th.
I gotta find some of these so that way you guys can translate for me. Because literally I have no clue what the hell he's talking about. Hold on. I'm just pulling it up here on Facebook.
Well,
Boy,
just so you know...
We still got a lot of people here.
Just so you know, once you start getting, 3-4 guitars, it becomes kind of like an addiction.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it already is. It already is. You got to realize, Everett, my parents never allowed me to have a guitar. And for 30 years, I asked for a guitar for Christmas, and then just a few years ago, 4 years ago, Jolene got me my first guitar for Christmas, and that's a Washburn. I got to bring that one out and show you online one day. And then she picked me up, or then I got it for my 40th birthday. I got an autographed DJ Ashba guitar from a friend of mine. He's the former lead guitarist of GNR with Bumblefoot and the current lead guitarist of 6 a.m. Hold on. That was weird. Something just bumped my chair.
I heard that.
That was odd. And I'm looking around to see if it was a cat or a dog, but I got no animals in here. That was kind of cool. Love when that happens. Yes, then my third guitar I got for Christmas a couple of years ago. It's a J Tercer. It looks like a Gibson's Les Paul, and it's black on black. It looks really sexy. And then I got this one for the Court this year for Christmas.
That Court's a good-looking guitar.
Yeah, it's a good-looking guitar. But anyways, I didn't know, and I'll tell you something that I learned here. I didn't know that that the reason why a lot of musicians have so many guitars, and I learned this just the other day, and I thought, okay, they're switching up guitars because, for some reason, maybe they're just showing off their guitar collection. Like, this is how naive I was about it. But I didn't realize until the other day I went to play Paradise City, or just to see what it was about, and I had tuned my guitar beforehand, and my guitar was looking like way out of tune. I didn't realize that for different songs they tune guitars a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that. So
like some of the
and different guitars and go ahead.
Well, like for if you're playing some of the old Led Zeppelin, you have to tune your guitar to C-A-C-G-C-E instead of the standard tuning. I've got one right at my elbow that I've been trying to learn that instrumental piece, Bronyar. So I got this one. I have little tags that I put on the headstock so I know what they're tuned to. Some of them, like if you're playing Van Halen, you're usually tuned half a step down. And, different things. At least that's a good way to justify when you want to buy another guitar. It's like, yeah, but I need one to put the B flat.
And some of them, you compare the same note on a Telecaster versus a Les Paul, it's going to have a different tonal quality. Even if the guitars are tuned the same, it's going to be a completely different sound. So there's a lot of reasons you need a lot of guitars.
Okay, my chair just got hit again. It just got bumped again. And if you heard a sound, that was me kind of shifting around on my desk. But that's like twice here.
Yeah, you hit an A power chord on, say, guitar I've got in my lap right now, a Fender Stratocaster. Using the neck pickup is a completely different sound than you're going to get off a Les Paul with the double humbuckers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got mostly custom Carvin and Kiesel guitars that have their own proprietary pickups, and they've got a different sound than the others. Especially those.
Hey, Eric?
Lithiums. Yeah.
I'm getting, and I don't even know if you know what this is, I'm getting two of them. Banjolins.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, they were selling those uptown a couple years ago. They're tuned kind of, you can tune them like a dulcimer or like the open G.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid to play these, though. They're about, I think, 75 to 100 years old.
Oh,
but
wow.
I want to put them in some cases and put them up on the wall.
Yeah.
1 second here. The noise you heard when my chair... Hold on, my microphone working? There it is. The noise you heard, the noise you heard, because they're saying, yes, we heard it again. No, this was just a slight push on my chair. I've never had that happen before. That's kind of cool. The noise you heard was me shifting around on my chair and my knee hitting my desk. So that's what that was. But yeah, that's twice now that my chair has been pushed. I'm going to bring out my pendulum here. Eric, you can verify this. I'm going to put you actually, I can't even put you on camera because that will screw with this feed right now.
Oh, too bad.
I'm going to bring out my pendulum.
Yeah, we need to do a pendulum show sometime.
Yeah, if we could get the cameras working properly. All right. And if you heard that thump, that's my dog upstairs. All right. Let's see. Are you here? My pendulum is saying yes. All right. Thank you. Is there someone behind me? Yes. Have they pushed on my chair? Yes.
Mm.
Was it because I played my guitar? Yes. Was it because I suck at guitar?
No.
Actually, the answer is no.
Huh.
Was it male? Yes. Do I know this person? Yes. Does he like it when Eric clears his throat on the air? No. No, he doesn't. Is Corrine coming to Boston for the Paracon? Yes, she is. Thank you. All right.
Now I'm going to have to be there.
Is Everett going to be there? Everett, you're apparently coming too.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh. Let's see. The ghost behind me right now, is he in the house often? Yes. Is it a ghost or an alien? Yes for ghost, B for alien. Anybody want to guess what it said?
I'm getting my pension. I don't know.
I'm going to say alien.
It is alien.
Alien. Well, you've had that before.
Yes. Let's see. Is it a gray?
No.
I got yes.
You did?
I did.
This is a new pendulum I haven't used. I probably haven't got reading it right.
This is the one. I'm using the pendulum that Amber Avalona made for me.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's got some powerful stuff on it. Anyhow, let's continue on here. Am I being taken tonight?
I get no.
I'm getting yes.
Wow.
Corrine, am I getting taken tonight?
No.
Okay, now mine's changing to no. Weird. Come on. Is this Jordan, my guide, who's connecting here right now? No.
No.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's get Jordan to step in here. Peace, love, and light. Jordan, can you come on into the pendulum, please? Can you stop it and change? All right, it stopped. Jordan, are you here? Yes. Did you know that last spirit that was in here? No.
What I'm getting is a no.
Was it alien? Yes. Am I going for a ride tonight? No. No. Is Corrine coming to Boston with us? Yes. Is she going to bring her best shoes? Yes.
All right, I'm done with it.
will Everett shave before he goes there? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You flying out there, Everett, or are you going to drive or what?
I'm just going to wait for you to step by.
Well, if you fly, I tell you what, why don't you fly down to Greensboro or Charlotte, and then we can both drive out to Boston. We got to pick up Dave at Logan anyway.
Can do that, or I can fly right into Logan and
What
just
about Corey?
drive out
Why
there.
can't Corey come with us?
Oh, Corey can come. Corey, of course.
I don't care
he
who
can
comes. I've only got 4 seats, so.
All right.
I don't know if Green's bringing her best shoes. That might take up a big chunk of that trunk.
Oh, I got a Jeep Grand Cherokee with a trailer hitch. I'll put a U-Haul on the back.
Well, let's just keep it going. All right. Let's see. Was the Gray a fan of the guitar? Yes. Yes. What's he doing here tonight? Did he take someone here tonight? No. Is he just observing tonight? Yes. All right. I'm putting this down. Thank you.
You know, I think there's something that's been lost in music in terms of aliens. I mean, there's so much math and emotion tied to music that I think it could, and I know this might sound a little out there, but used to figure out a way to communicate.
Like they did in Close Encounters?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, it might be a universal thing. I mean, if you look at the mathematics behind, say, a Bach piece, which I think it was Carl Sagan, it was either Feynman or Sagan, one of them said when we put Bach on that gold album that we sent on the Explorers, that it was just showing off.
I don't know. There's a lot of math to it.
That there is. Lady and gentlemen, I hate to tell you all, but it's time.
That's disappointing, Dave.
I know. But some of us have to be up in 6.5 hours. You know,
And some of us are off for the next 7 days.
Hey, some of us won't be going to sleep for a while.
Oh, Trippin' Fool finally gets in under a new profile. He's going testing. You better have brought some liquor, Trip. You better have brought some liquor.
Yeah,
That's
the
all
bar
I'm saying.
was closed tonight.
Yeah,
You
thanks.
were here.
We had a sober night with you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Tomorrow night on the show, we got Bruce A. Smith, which reminds me, Eric, he still hasn't called me, but we'll get a hold of him for tomorrow night.
Okay,
Bruce
I've
A.
got his
Smith.
number, too.
Yeah, give him a call tomorrow if you don't mind.
I sure will.
Thank you. Eric Markham's going to join me in the hot seat here in the cabin. He's flying all the way up from North Carolina to Uncle Jimbo's cabin here in British Columbia to co-host with me tomorrow night. We're talking D.B. Cooper. A lot of new information on that coming up. So, we get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time, and we want to thank everyone who came along, especially our new listeners tonight. We had a couple of new listeners in the chat room. Appreciate you. You know, appreciate you doing that. I want to say thank you to, yes, I want to say thank you so much to Corrine DeWinter, to Everett Thiemer, to Eric Markham, and to Brett Butler, our guest from the first 2 hours. I'm starting to stumble here. I'm tired. Remember, you can find all our shows on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio Show, on TuneIn, and on iTunes. Make sure you do me a favor. Tell a friend. That's how we're growing this. And I will promise that I'm going to continue to practice my guitar so we can rock again, and hopefully the alien behind me isn't going to show up. Corey, you come see me at work tomorrow. Not my old work, the new work up the hill. Because I changed jobs. Daytime jobs. I'm the boss now. So, that's the way it's going to go. I'm the boss. Hey, thank you so much. Remember, our website is spacedoutradio.com, and I'd love to have you all back tomorrow night. Everyone on the chat rooms, on Twitter at hashtag spacedoutradio. All I ask, do us a favor. Tell a friend about this show. Let us rock out. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.